Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Only Football Podcast. Tonight, we're going to be recapping week 17. We've got one more week of football left before the playoffs, so make sure to savor this NFL, everybody. After the recap, we're going to do our top five, and, of course, we're going to end it off with the Chives with Kyle. Let's get it.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Only Football Podcast. I'm Kyle, and that's Rick.
I'm Rick, that's Kyle.
Man, we had a lot of controversy this weekend. We had a couple different things. Some of it is coaching, some of it is players, some of it is, as always, the referees once again. And I would say in a lot of moments, looking back on it in hindsight, especially like the pass interference call on Surtain on the 2-point conversion week 2 against the Commanders in Denver doesn't matter anymore. But this one matters a lot. And it matters a lot because this isn't the Commanders and Broncos. This was the Lions and the Cowboys, two teams being really competitive in the NFC, trying to figure out where they're going to be seated. Dallas plays a lot better at home. The Lions play better at home. This is a very, very important game. And it turns out that the refs got this one wrong. And we're hearing different things now. We're hearing that this player did report. We heard now that Dan Campbell not only did he know that his player reported, but he told the referee pregame, hey, if we're in this situation and we go for 2 for the win, this is what we're going to do, this player. So he already he already did everything on his end. So you get that information, and now they're saying, hey, Roger Goodell, through one of the laws, has the ability to overturn a game. He has the jurisdiction to
Jurisdiction.
I can't say jewelry or anything that makes me weird. But we're hearing all this stuff about that Roger can overturn this, and I'm looking at it like he, of course, if that was going to happen, it would have happened already. So I don't think it's going to happen. But I mean, what do you even do with this? And do you think that, first off, let's just rewind a little bit. Did you see the call and did you see the whole thing and how it was set up, and what did you think?
So I did see kind of what I saw what happened. I more or less, I didn't really watch the game. I kind of saw the beginning of it, didn't really watch it too much after that. And what I did first was, when that call happened, I was like hearing a bunch of people talk about it. What's his name? Whatever his name is. Pat McAfee. I saw a couple of people talk about it. Then I saw what happened, right? And the thing is, like, they both went up there. Skipper and Decker, I believe, right? Both of the guys that went up there. They both went up there. The thing was that Dan Campbell talked to the ref, said, hey, when this happens, only one guy is reporting. Two guys are going to come up to you, but that's the deception of what I'm trying to accomplish, right? And regardless, the ref has to go up there, tell the defense this guy's eligible in the tackle position, which Decker was in, I believe. And this is 100% on the ref, because if you have two guys up there, and the ref runs away as the other guy just gets there, and you as the head ref, the white cap, is confused, you got to give it a second, clarify, understand what the play is or what's going on with these two guys that are coming up to you, and then tell the defense, communicate to the defense, this guy is checking in as eligible. So when we talk about how how it's the ref's fault and how some people are saying, no, it's Dan Campbell, and how confusing he made the play or how confusing he made it to the refs, the ref at the end of the day cannot be confused. He's the white cap head ref for a reason, because that's the guy who is going to be the least, if not at all, confused. That's what the ref fucked up in. He was confused. That's not what you got to do as the head ref, man. I know it's a tight game. I know time is winding down. Regardless, you have got to be the point of clarification as to what is happening in this game for that call in this big time game situation.
Right.
You can't be the one who's confused. And yes, could Dan Campbell have done something a little less confusing? Maybe, but also the head ref. You're the guy who's supposed to know who's checking in for eligibility and who's not. Fucked up on the ref. So I don't know. I just think at the end of the day, it is the refs. Whether or not Roger Goodell wants to do something as crazy as call it a Lions dub or whatever it may be. Dan Campbell said 2 opportunities to tie the game going overtime, and he missed on both. The first, the one after that was an offsides by the defense, and then the one after that was just an incomplete pass by Goff. So,
do you think it's like shamed or something? Like, why don't we see this more often? Do you think, like, even if a ref wanted to reverse a call, do you think it's like a toxic part of the culture that it's like kind of like how if you're not safe to fly, say you're not safe to fly, but don't say you're not safe to fly, kind of a deal. Like, because I just wonder, when it's clearly wrong, and this isn't just football, I've seen this in basketball this year, where they look at the replay and they're like, oh yeah, that's blatantly wrong, but they don't go back and they don't make the adjustments. And this is a game where I think with how important it is, it's just, if you go back and make that adjustment, it's almost like the NFL is admitting that they're wrong. Man, if they just go, we already know they're wrong, but for some reason, it's like worse if they admit it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And is in terms of that, right? Like, I don't know, man, because there's 2 sides to the coin. If you're a ref in that situation and they came back and said, hey, our bad, play stands, 2-point conversion is good, right? Now, Dallas is mad. Well, why are you throwing a flag? Why is there this discussion? Well, Dallas fans are angry, but at the end of the day, they did get it correct, which I think is the most important part of any situation that you find yourself in as a ref. Even NBA refs, right? Like, they go back for 3-pointers, for example. Oh, they're calling it a 2. Let's go back, rewind it. Oh, yep, he is beyond the arc. Therefore, it is a 3. Is it close? Sure. Is he on the line? No. The point is, they got it right. They went back. It's a 3-pointer. MLB, one of the leagues that took forever to incorporate instant replay in general, is doing that now. And yes, when a player thinks that a ball was actually a ball and not a strike, tap his head, give it a quick little motion. Okay, ump was wrong. It is a ball, not a strike. Take your walk, something like that. Why aren't refs doing this, man? And I think the thing is, NFL refs, those are part-time jobs. Those are not full-time jobs like your MLB, like your NBA. Yes, the season is shorter in terms of games played. But like, this is why this shit happens. One, you don't want to take responsibility. 2, these guys have jobs in the off season that have nothing to do with reffing. and use that entire year, the rest of the offseason, to hone your skills, to be able to call stuff on a quicker pace, to be able to discuss this, to be able to go back and say, you know what, we were wrong. The NFL hates to do this, and more specifically, NFL refs hate to do this. And honestly, it's a shitty thing, because at the end of the day, you're giving the right call regardless of which fan base is mad at you. But you don't make the right call, the entire fucking NFL, in terms of fans and owners and this and that, they're going to be pissed at you, man. And they need to do better.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. So going right into the game, I thought they played a really tough game. I thought the Lions looked really good. I knew that this was going to be a close game. Aiden Hutchinson was a big player in this. He had 3 sacks. But what I was really impressed with was Dak Prescott. He looked really good. He was just he's doing so much pre-snap, and don't blow this out of proportion, and please don't clip this and take it out of context.
Clipping it. But
Dak Prescott was the closest thing like pre-snap that I've seen since Peyton Manning. I mean, what he's doing at the line, the motion that he's doing, so he can say, okay, they're running, too high man, and then you motion a guy. All he's doing is gathering information about the defense, and he collects so much data pre-snap. But by the time he snaps the ball, he knows exactly who's going to be where and who's going to be open based on the defense that they're in. And that's why rookies tend to struggle so much, is because they can't gather and collect as much information before the snap. So they're reacting. That's why older quarterbacks like Manning, when he was fucking old and couldn't move, he won games because of how smart he was. And I think we're seeing this shift with Dak right now, that maybe when he was younger, he relied a lot on his athleticism. And I think we've seen this from like Lamar Jackson, when he was like, I'm not going to run anymore. Justin Fields, I'm not going to run anymore. But I think Dak Prescott actually successfully made his transition. I think he's fully bridged into a quarterback that can beat you between the eyes. He's a big brain dude now, and he's out there and he makes good decisions. Like, I feel like those interception problems, they seem not as serious as like Josh Allen's. Remember, we were talking about Josh Allen, and it's like every year we're talking about him. Like, we were talking about Dak Prescott just like that a couple years ago, and we haven't been talking about it this year. We did talk about it last year, but not this year. And I just look at this Dallas team, and I picked Detroit to win this game. I think Detroit should have won the game. And I stand by my pick. I think Detroit is a Super Bowl team. I think they're going to be the team that plays the 49ers in the NFC Championship. But if something goes this way again, then not. And that's the problem right now. We can only predict who we think will win, but it's gotten to a point now where it could be that the wrong team gets the W if just one call is off. And this year there's been a lot. So what I really am saying is I think it's a mystery of who's going to make it. It could be Philly when a call goes their way. It could be Dallas if a call goes their way. It could be Detroit. I feel the same way about all these teams. I picked Detroit as my favorite. I think Detroit played a great game, but it's anybody's guess who's going to make it to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, 100%. I could definitely see the Cowboys and the Niners being that NFC Championship game for sure. And the way, the Dak played, CeeDee Lamb, Jimmy Johnson got inducted into the Ring of Honor for them. So you knew they were playing with a little, they were playing with a little extra, right? Like they wanted to win this one. And, they won it in a way that, yes, there's a lot of controversy around it, but at the end of the day, they won the game, man. And yes, Dak almost 350 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He had 1 interception, but CeeDee Lamb has been absolute beast this year, man. 13 receptions, 227 yards and a touchdown. I think, let me see. I saw something here where he became he broke a record or something in this game. CeeDee Lamb did, and it was ridiculous, like a Michael Irvin record. And I think it was like amount of receptions or something like that. Regardless, it was a great game by CeeDee Lamb.
It was amount. It was a yardage thing. I think it was amount of 150-yard games or something, or it was. Oh no, it was most receiving yards in a game.
Oh, okay. So it was most receiving yards in a game. Yeah. Dude, he's a monster, man. CeeDee Lamb his rookie year, like everybody was saying, he's good. And yeah, his rookie year is his rookie year. It is what it is, but he is just turned into an elite wide receiver with how well he's been playing these last few games, in really the home stretch of the season. The Cowboys, by the way, get their 16th straight home victory. They are a perfect 8-0 this season at home, or 9-0, whatever it may be. And they came away with the win. It wasn't as convincingly as you would have wanted, because it is a Detroit defense that has given up quite a bit of yards and points up to maybe lesser teams, really, if that's what you want to say. So not as convincingly as you wanted the Cowboys to win, but again, a win is a win. The Cowboys, on the other hand, Jared Goff was probably one of the big reasons why the Lions didn't win the game. I will say, obviously the call there at the end was huge, but Goff did have, I believe, 2 interceptions in this game. So he did have a couple turnovers in this game, if I'm not mistaken. And he did get the ball to St. Brown. And of course, the whole 2-point conversion controversy really just kind of brings, I feel like it brought all of Detroit down, man. All of the Detroit fans and really that entire franchise is just like, what the fuck? Right? Like, this happens to us every year or something, right? Like, you had a field goal last year or 2 years ago before that took away a win. They haven't won the division in so long. Last year, right? Like, they were on a streak. Like, this happens to the Lions so often that I feel
all
like
the time.
Lions fans are just getting used to it. But good game by both of these teams. Obviously, both are going to be in the division, but someone had to win. Someone had to win, and it was the Cowboys at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see this game in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and a quick shout out to everybody in the chat. Andy, Bill, Liam, I see all your guys' comments. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Absolutely. All right, so going into a game that I'm not excited to talk about, and I knew we were going to have to talk about it. I guess the only good thing I can say about this game is that Miami got beat, similar to how we got beat.
Yep.
And I guess what goes around comes around. And if that is true, then Baltimore's going to get beat bad in the playoffs. And that's what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Baltimore is winning football games, yes, but they will not be able to win these playoff games. I'm telling you, do not have faith in a quarterback with one playoff win. Have faith in Josh Allen. Jump on that bandwagon. Josh Allen is gonna be a real dog. But okay, in all reality, the Ravens are playing good football right now. Miami Dolphins came in and they got just totally dismantled. It was a road game. It was not their best game. I did say Miami would need to play their best game in order to win this game. That wasn't even close to what happened. And Lamar Jackson looks like this year's most valuable player. And I think I won't say he secured it, but it's 95% secured for Lamar. Dak had something to say about that on Saturday night, but Lamar, man, this was a huge, huge win. And he just looks so much better. He looks like he's playing quarterback at a higher level than anybody in the NFL this year, maybe Dak. But that's definitely, and you could say, like, what about Brock? I've watched Brock. I'm a Brock fan. I love Brock. He's not a system quarterback. He is a great quarterback. I don't care what you want to call him, but he's not Lamar. And he's not playing the kind of football Lamar is. Lamar's playing at a higher level than everybody. And that's why the Ravens are in this position.
Yeah, dude, the Ravens were this game was absolute domination. That's what it was. The first quarter was a game, and then the second, third, and fourth quarter was nothing. It was just the Ravens scoring touchdowns. That's all it was.
So I was right about that, because I said I think Baltimore gets up out to a 21-point lead, but Miami comes back. So I was halfway right.
You were definitely right in the other sense. Like, yeah, it was close. First quarter was close, but the Miami Dolphins only put up 9 points in the last 3 quarters of this game. So it was just domination, man. Absolute domination. Okay. And dog shit by the Dolphins. 56-19. I had this being a 9-point game, a 2-score game, and this was a fucking 6-score game is what it was, 56-19. With this win, the Ravens secured the AFC North, and they haven't done so since 2019. And Kyle, what else happened in 2019 that involved the Ravens? Do you remember?
Do
Do you remember what
right
else
before
happened?
COVID.
Do you remember?
Yeah, they 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Lamar Jackson won the MVP award for the first time
yeah.
in his career.
Okay,
That's what happened for them. And so, and you know, on a day
I would
that
have gotten it.
they had it, it would have just taken me a couple more minutes. On a day that they are able to do this for the first time since 2019, Lamar Jackson has an MVP type game. He threw for 5 touchdowns, 321 pass yards, a perfect passer rating, and even rushed. He even rushed a little bit, 35 yards. You know, no big deal. He used his legs. Got it to Zay Flowers a ton, 106 receiving yards and a score for Zay Flowers. The Ravens defense has been amazing. They sacked Tua 3 times, intercepted him twice. And the Ravens haven't lost since mid-November, since they lost to the Browns on the 12th or something. They've won 6 weeks straight because they're dogs. That's exactly right, because they're dog shit. They haven't lost since then. So this Ravens team, like you said, is playing out of their minds. Lamar's playing out of his mind. And I heard something, and maybe you might agree with this, Kyle, and maybe some people may agree or disagree. This person on a podcast said the MVP seems to be who the best quarterback is on the best team with the best record, and whoever gets the number 1 seed regarding in which conference. So the MVP doesn't matter until the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and you've got to be on the best team with the number 1 seed and the best conference, this and that. What do you think about that? Do you think that's somewhat true, or do you know?
Yeah, I do. And it's because quarterback is the most important position in football.
Yes.
And if you are on the most successful team, then it just makes sense that the most important position is the reason you're in position to be on this most successful team. So
yeah,
I don't think it's always wrong. I would say that's like 80%. Like there are other years where, I don't think Aaron Rodgers the Green Bay was a number 1 seed.
There's those like weird years or whatever. Yeah.
And I'm sure they're sprinkled in there. That's the law. But if one quarterback throws for like 5,000 yards and 48 touchdowns, then that's the performance. But if this is a great example. Like this year, everybody's kind of like your elite quarterbacks are still only throwing 30 touchdown passes this year, somewhere around there. So when you're having a year like this, and I think it does the nod goes to the number 1 seed, the team that's the best team in the AFC or the NFL.
And for the most part, I kind of agree, right? Because like you said, even Aaron Rodgers, when he won the MVP the last time, the Green Bay Packers were not number 1. They weren't this dominant team or anything like that. There are going to be those weird years. But yes, the defense, the Ravens, I know you said he's only got 1 playoff appearance, and it was a bad one, I believe, for Lamar. I just think this year is a little bit different. This defense is so dominating. The way Lamar has played in the last few weeks, importantly, has been amazing. It's been dominating, and I think they have a much better shot going into the playoffs. Obviously, they're going to have that first round bye, but I think they can actually, get a win here or something. So as far as the Dolphins, man,
the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl this year. 9:53, January 2nd. January 2nd, Tuesday, January 2nd, 9:53 p.m. Central Time. The Buffalo Bills are going to win the Super Bowl this year. It is that type of year.
Kyle needs a nap. As far as the Dolphins go, David Achane still able to rush for over 100 yards. Tyreek had 75 yards receiving, which is in a normal Tyreek game. They did have Jalen Waddle out. They did have Raheem Mostert out. But, I mean, they were just overmatched, man. I mean, what's his name? The linebacker that they got from Denver last year.
Chubb?
Bradley Chubb was injured in this game. Yeah, he got hurt in this game. But I think regardless of all those things, I don't think it would have been I don't think it would have been closer, even with all those guys healthy in the game, whatever it was. It was just an overmatched game by the Dolphins. And this continues those worries of, yes, they beat the Cowboys last week, that was a good game between two teams who struggle against above 500 teams. It just kind of gives you that like not so fuzzy warm feeling as a Dolphins fan that the Dolphins can compete in the playoffs. And regardless if that's true or not, you get stomped out by the Ravens like that, a number one seed in the AFC. You're not
They just
confident.
stomped the 49ers though.
Exactly.
Like everybody's getting stomped by the Ravens right now.
That's true. That's true. So maybe it is just the Ravens are going on a dominating run.
That's what I think it is. I think Dolphins are still good.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like how the 49ers were beating every NFC team.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, the Cowboys aren't bad. The 49ers are just good. And then it's just matchups like the 49ers Ravens. The Ravens blew them out. But nothing about that made sense because we've seen the 49ers dominate really good teams. So it doesn't make sense that they would get dominated by the Ravens. I think sometimes you just – that's the thing about the NFL. NBA, you get 7 games, best out of 7. And you feel like, oh, okay, the better team won, bigger sample size. Like any given Sunday, the 49ers can just shit the bed, lose Trent Williams, and get blown out.
You get 4 quarters. That's all you get. So, but yeah, man, Ravens just being dominant right now.
Absolutely. And the team that I keep talking about, the Buffalo Bills. And I think there's a real case to be made. Buffalo didn't blow out New England, but New England's playing competitive. They just beat the Broncos with a lot to play for last week. And they were at home. They get the win. The Bills offensively struggled a little bit. But when I look at some of the other games that happened, like Cincinnati going into Kansas City, I look at how Kansas City's down 10 and they have Jake Browning. And I look at this Bills team who's been winning football games. I think they've won like 6 of their last 7 at this point. And I'm just like, why not Buffalo? Who's the better team? Miami getting blown out by the Ravens? Like, who is the biggest threat to the Ravens right now? I think it has to be Buffalo because Josh Allen is playing at a high level and Buffalo's offense is doing better than Kansas City's. So I think right now, if you're a Buffalo fan, Denver beating you on Monday night was like your low point of the season. And now you're like, hey, let's rally like the Giants in 2007 and just, who knows? Like, let's just believe and play for each other. This is the type of year where they could go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and the Bills, like you said, they're definitely up there in terms of who can absolutely challenge, a team like the Ravens or really anybody in the playoffs, right? Because they had a crazy, crazy season, and they kind of silently, sneakily have turned Week 18 into a battle for playoffs or you're out. And the AFC East title, really. They beat the Dolphins. They're going to be AFC East title champs in a year. Middle of the year, we're like, there's no way this team has it. Then what happens? They go and fire their OC. They get Joe Brady on there. They make a trade line acquisition of Rasul Douglas, which I'll mention here in a bit. And they stop relying on Josh Allen's arm to win the game. Instead, they go with James Cook rushing the ball. They rush the ball a lot more. Again, their first 1,000-yard rusher since fucking Miles Sanders or whoever it was back in like 2017. Like before Josh Allen's time or right around there, right at the beginning of it. So they made a lot of adjustments mid-season because they knew we're a good team. We can be a playoff team regardless of how the middle of the season is going or how the season has gone thus far. And that's exactly what they're doing. I said I'd mention Rasul Douglas. Real MVP of this game, man. He had a pick 6 and then he tipped the pass for an interception, which was Zappe's 3rd of the game. Josh Allen rushed for 2 touchdowns. Again, not necessarily relying on his arm because he didn't have an amazing game passing, but he rushed for 2 touchdowns. Again, the running game has been very important for the Bills in this stretch of the season. And they've won 4 straight, 5 out of 6. And like you said, they're going to be very, very much into the playoffs as a team that in the middle of the season, you were looking at them, you're like, all right, they ain't going to do shit this year. To, oh shit, we got to play the Bills. Like that's kind of what they're turning into and what they are. Then as far as the Patriots, I don't know what you kind of expected, even though this was a close game, 27-21. But they struggled from the get-go. They started with only 2 first downs in their first 6 possession. And then, they made it a game late when Zeke rushed for a touchdown to pull them within the 6 points that they lost by. Then their next possession, they get a 3 and out, never got the ball back after that. It was just offensively, again, nothing that the Patriots could do against this Bills team that are playing much better.
Yeah, perfectly said. And with the Patriots, we definitely know what they are. And here's a team.
Sorry, Andy.
Here's a team that I'm going to say, don't know who they are. And these are your Chicago Bears. Justin Fields thrived in this game. He made the Bears offseason decision even more fascinating because the Bears are doing really well right now offensively. So with the pick that they're going to have, and their pick's not so great anymore. I mean, it's still good, but they have the Panthers pick, and the Panthers haven't turned anything around. So
nope, they clinched the number one, baby.
They clinched the number one, and you look at this Bears team, and I'm going to be that fan or that friend that is just like, I'm telling you, do not tear this down. Do not tear it down. How long have you waited for something good? Just because all that bad stuff happened doesn't mean that now that good stuff's happening that you have to punish them for what had happened. What is going to happen is what we are seeing. And we're living in a time where the Bears have won, 4 of their last 5? And their defense is holding opponents, and Justin Fields is carving up a pretty good Atlanta secondary. I mean, what's your takeaway?
It seems like every week, dude, it just seems like, what do we do here, right? But the Bears have been so much better in these last few weeks. And again, I always go back to what happens if they win those close games that they were leading by. Are they in the playoffs? Are they a 6 seed? Are they a 7 seed? Can they even compete for the division title, right? So I don't know. As far as how Justin Fields is doing, he's doing so much better. Ever since he's returned from his dislocated thumb, he's done better than worse. You know what I mean? Like, he has had really good games and he's had some shitty games, but those really good games have overshadowed those kind of bad decisions, those bad games that he's had since his return. And really, I am so confused at this point, kind of like last year. I'm letting Ryan Poles make the decision making at this point, because what happens, right? We have the number 1 pick. Do we go get Caleb Williams, a Drake May, whatever, Penix, whoever fucking quarterback they want to get, right? And then if that fails and we trade away Justin Fields, right? And then if that area fails, we're giving shit to Poles. We're giving shit to Eberflus. Why couldn't you develop quarterback? This and that, blah, blah, blah. If we stick with Justin, trade away the number 1 overall pick, maybe get a Marvin Harrison, maybe get a Rome Odunze from Washington, or even go further back in the draft and pick up an offensive tackle or a defensive tackle.
Yes.
And then Justin Fields does not pan out. Now we're giving Poles shit about not picking a quarterback when you knew Justin Fields wasn't the guy. Instead, trying to go defense when our defense is already good, trying to go offense when our offensive line is very good, or we could have picked up offensive. Like, there's no way to win this as a Bears fan. So really, at the end of the day, I'm just putting my trust into Poles' hands.
I think the way you guys win it is by moving back and taking like an extra 3rd round pick and then selecting Marvin Harrison. Because look at this. This tells me everything I need to know about the Bears right here. Next gen stat of the game, Justin Fields faces lowest pressure rate in a game this season, 35.9 against the Falcons. Most of his production came on longer dropbacks, 257 of 268 passing yards on dropbacks over 2.5 seconds. It's amazing what can happen when Justin Fields has a little bit of time to throw. And and everybody's looking at, oh, he's made some questionable decisions. Well, the offensive line has been pretty questionable. And you're giving him some time. I think if you really want to know what a quarterback is, give him time to throw. That is pretty telling. If you give a quarterback a good pocket, you find out pretty quick if he's got it in him or not. And they did that for Fields on Sunday, and he almost dropped 40 on the Falcons. So I think this idea that there's something better out there is not the approach. I think, if anything, he proved, based on what the data is telling us, that the Bears should invest in weapons, not replacing him.
Yeah, and that's definitely like one of the ways of thinking, and that's definitely one of the ways that I've kind of looking at too, because our offensive line does have some key pieces. Darnell Wright, who we just drafted, Tevin Jenkins, who we got a couple of years ago. Really, it's everyone outside of there, because even Jones, Braxton Jones, he's been solid a few games, and then he has not been good on some games. So it's like, do you really want to roll with that on the fence guy where he has good games, doesn't have good games, or do you want to draft somebody? Okay, let's draft somebody, turns into a Darnell Wright and has a really good rookie season with some rookie mistakes, but overall you think he's going to be one of those cornerstones of that offensive line. Yeah, you're right. When Justin Fields has time, he can make plays happen either with his feet or with his arm. And if you get a Marvin Harrison Jr., because a lot of times, it's happened plenty of times this season where Justin Fields has plenty of time to throw 4, 5, 6 seconds, and he can't get a throw off. And all of a sudden, now it's when the pressure starts coming and he gets sacked or he has to run for a loss, things like that. When you have a DJ Moore and when you have a Marvin Harrison Jr. and you got a Cole Kmet, those guys are going to create space for themselves, because DJ Moore is already a number one. Cole Kmet is becoming a very, very elite tight end. In his first really kind of breakout year. Last year, I more or less was breakout, but this one has been his real breakout. And then you add a Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to be a rookie. He's going to get a lot of shit, but in the future, he's going to be one of those fucking dogs that can be a number one. All of a sudden, you got 2 number one wide receivers on a rookie contract and on a contract that he deserves in DJ Moore. So yes, the offensive line definitely needs help. Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson can absolutely man the running back game. And then our defense is just coming together. You got to pay Jalen Johnson, though. You have to pay Jalen Johnson if you're Ryan Poles. You got tons of money, pay the guy. Our defense is coming together along. Like you said, we're building something, and it's almost there. Offensive coordinator and Getsy has to go. Eberflus, I like the way he's been calling the defense. He did something that Alan Williams at the beginning of the season could not fucking do to save his life. So if Eberflus wants to stay on as head coach, I don't love it, but I love what he's doing with the defense. And it showed in this game. They picked off. They came away with the ball 4 times on interceptions. Yeah, 4 interceptions. 2 by
one guy
Stevenson.
Had 2. Yeah.
Tyreek Stevenson, rookie, 2 interceptions. Kyler Gordon had one, and TJ Edwards, our offseason acquisition at linebacker, also had one. It was a dominant victory for the Bears as a team. Offense, defense, shit, even special teams, really, really had just a good overall game. And, the Falcons, on the other hand, not great at all. They did feed Robinson and London a lot, which during the stream, if you guys were tuned in for that, that's what I said. I was like, just like Kyler Murray and the Cardinals last week, you had to give James Conner the ball and you had to give Kyler Murray the ability to throw more time. And they didn't do any of those things. That's why they lost. In this game, you had to give Bijan Robinson the ball more, and Drake London, which they tried, and they did get a lot more than what I was expecting, but they still couldn't come away with the win, and that's why they lost. I mean, you had Algier go for a 75-yard touchdown pass on a screen pass, and I was like, oh, shit, this might be the downfall right here.
And Taylor Heineke running for like 30-yard run. That was weird.
Yeah, and even Heineke, like after all those picks, Desmond Ridder came in for him too and threw a pick, I think, too. So the Bears as a whole were a great team. We're very aggressive. We're very much there. Like it was just an all-around team win, I will say. But yeah, man, it's just Fields is giving me a little more confidence. Eberflus is a head coach, still not there on the confidence, but as far as a defensive guy, 100% with him. Get rid of Getsy, add some players in the draft. And I know Andy hates that we're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Bears, but hey, Andy, you might be needing a quarterback, and Drake May and Caleb Williams are going to be up there. I mean, there's a couple other ones, right? There's
Russell Wilson will be a Patriot,
or that. I mean, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think Marvin Harrison should kind of be the least of your worries at this point, Andy. But for the Bears, I think is going to be a good acquisition. If Fields stays, Eberflus stays, and just that team continues to move forward in the way that they are.
And it's a good lesson to be learned about, how sometimes what you see on the field is just as a fan, it comes off a certain way, but this is the same guy and he's turning the defense around. And this is the same guy that it just, to me, tells me what how big of a role talent plays. Like coaching is important, but talent is huge. And you see, like, since they got Montez Sweat, they're like a whole new team. And that's
Yeah.
why I could not believe the Commanders would part ways with that guy. Like
Mhm.
I get Chase Young. Like I get that one, but I just felt like, man, that is a piece. And immediately I wonder if they have selling remorse watching, the Bears and
Fucking
him
Andy.
have so much success.
Yeah, and I was gonna say something. I forgot what I was gonna say, but they have 7 wins now. They can win next week at Green Bay at Lambeau. They'll have 8. That's 5. That's a 5-win difference from last year. So while for the most part I don't like the way Eberflus, coaches a football game,
Me neither.
it's progress in terms of in the right direction.
Yes.
You're gonna tell me my team went from 3 wins in the first pick to 8 wins in the first pick? Like that's progress no matter what sport you're fucking rooting for. You know what I mean?
Why do we have the same team?
Because we started this podcast. That's why.
Like last year, our quarterbacks were sacked 50 and 51 times. We both had 4 wins. And
Yeah,
then
3. I think you had 4 or you had 3. Something like that. We had 3.
Yeah, it was low. It might have been as high as 5, which isn't high. But then this year, both teams fucking suck, and then they at some point get kind of hot in the season and finish 8 and 9.
Yeah,
literally
except in
the same team.
I was gonna say, except in this case, it's like the coaching is the big question mark for me versus you. It's more like skill position players, the quarterback, and Jerry Jeudy to an extent, right? So like some skill position players.
Would you give up? Would you give us Justin Fields if we gave you Sean Payton?
You said what?
If you gave us Justin Fields, we would give you Sean Payton. Would you take that deal? Wow, what a question.
Oof. Maybe. I think I would. I mean, and then we're talking about bringing in a quarterback who would be in a much better position than Justin Fields was when he was coming into this organization. With Sean Payton as the head coach and the guys he brings for maybe offensive defense,
and he would probably draft Caleb Williams.
I think so too. Yeah.
We can only dream. The Houston Texans finally bounced back against the Tennessee Titans. They had been without CJ Stroud, so I'm not even going to say that they weren't performing very well. No shit. They lost their quarterback. I know people were kind of down on them. I'm like, don't forget, this is one of the most dangerous teams in the AFC. They have, I think we've all gotten cute on the Texans, and we're way off on this one. When CJ Stroud was throwing for 400 yards a football game, and I know that they got that injury with Tank Dell, but they still have Nico Collins out there. He led the Texans in receiving in this game. Devin Singletary is carrying a load on the ground right now, and he's doing it really well. Houston struggled on 3rd down, and they only had 1 offensive touchdown. But CJ Stroud, it's his first game back in a couple games. I think that, they did enough to get the win, and I think CJ Stroud will have a much better week next week. And I'm thinking if this Texans team gets in the playoffs, that would be my dark horse team to watch out for.
Definitely agree. And Andy, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time, man. Hearts. The Houston Texans, man. It's great the fact that they have CJ Stroud back, and I'm sure a lot of Texans fans are just like, whew, this team was going downhill fast without him. And he came back. He had a good game, over 200 yards passing, and he had a touchdown. His 21st of the season, by the way, for a rookie fucking quarterback. That's crazy. Amazing. That's crazy to even, think about that. I was over here cheering Justin on, being like, 12 touchdowns. Let's go.
Did you know that Jordan Love has 30 touchdown passes this season?
Insult stat. Yep.
No Bears quarterback in the history of their franchise has ever had 30. And Jordan Love got it in his first year. Isn't that fucking crazy?
You got to go back to, I forget the name of the quarterback who did have 30 touchdowns, less yards, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or 29 touchdowns and still less yards than Jordan Love. It's ridiculous, dude.
Jordan Love is but it doesn't even feel like that's true. Like, I'm like, there's
know.
not a
I
year
know.
sprinkled in there with Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall. Nope.
Nope. Nope. Not 1 year with that duo, and that was probably one of our best ones, from recent memory. So
Oh yeah.
the fact that CJ Stroud got 21, it's like, damn, this is ridiculous. Like, why can't the Bears ever hit? But I think we might have, with Justin Fields going
In
forward.
the
We'll see
future, yeah.
how that goes. Yeah, I think it's just a couple more years extra,
He
right?
could be the next Mahomes.
God, dude, I fucking hope so. You saying that's giving me a boner. Other than that, how well CJ Stroud played the Texans
Gonna be
defense.
saying that all the time now. He's like Mahomes. What's up, Rick? Justin Fields is gonna be
Dude,
like Mahomes.
Stop. You know what that does to me? Other
Just
than
at the
that,
dinner table,
going up to the board, they got a boner.
wives at the table. Watch this.
But the Texans defense had a fumble 6 in this game, which was awesome for them. Again, it's nice for the Texans, I'm sure, to be able to see this team dominate the Titans 26-3 with the way they did. And the Titans, dude, there's really not much to say. Their offense looked lost, and especially after Will Levis went out with a foot injury and you had Tannehill come back in. And dude, I made a note here. Tannehill and Derrick Henry, dude, they look so old. They look old as shit in terms of the way they're playing. Like, I know I'm old. I know I'm football old and old in general.
We're also
But
not
wow.
trying to play professional sports right now.
That's true. That is very true. We talk about it, which is just as hard.
I would talk about.
but-
I've hit that age where I shifted. I think about coaching now.
See, there you go. There you go.
Yeah,
It's like when
like,
an
I need to be
actor's
out
like,
there.
when an actor's like, all right, I think I'm gonna get into directing now because I can't do this shit anymore.
Exactly.
But yeah, man, that Titans team was nowhere to be found offensively and defensively. I mean, they did what they could against CJ Stroud and them, but that team, even with what's his face at head coach, like they're just not good this year, and it shows records wise. And their offense, AJ Brown, huge deduction, and they tried with DeAndre Hopkins, like you said earlier in the season. They tried to replicate that. It's not the same. It is not the same. That's why the Titans are looking in the mirror right now and being like, who the fuck are we and what do we want to do this offseason? They got a lot of holes to fill.
Yeah, and it's not their coach, I believe.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. That's the one thing that I feel like, man, it's nice to already have that coach. It really is. Because
absolutely.
Because like with the Bears, you brought in Poles, you brought in Eberflus, and they took over a team with a second year Justin Fields, and it's like we already have questions about 2 of the 3 of those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that coach.
All right. Well, this is going to be probably my favorite game to talk about, and rather than putting up Indianapolis Colts 23, Las Vegas Raiders 20, we will talk about it like this.
I love it. I fucking love it, dude.
The Raiders eliminated from the playoffs once again. Man, feels good. Feels good just to know that they're not going to be in. They don't.
I mean,
deserve
it's
it.
a good story, but there's no way they would have like done anything in there, so it doesn't matter.
No, never. Now moving forward, maybe they can. All right, I'll stop being a dick. Here you go.
I love it.
This was the game that I think. Did we say game of the week? It was up there. We were like, this might be a good game.
Wasn't my game of the week. I think it was your game of the week.
Yeah, or I mean, I think
Something.
it was something like this.
You said it
where
was
two
important,
playoff
yeah.
teams. But the Colts remain in position to get into the playoffs with this win. Jonathan Taylor had 96 rushing yards. Gardner Minshew is leading this offense. He didn't have to do that much. He only was 15 for 23 for 224 yards and 1 touchdown. He was sacked once and was pressured on a season low 24% of his dropbacks. So when I look at this game, I thought the Colts were just very, very balanced. They didn't have to do too much to get the win, but it's a really, Raiders team playing competitive at home. So they definitely are good enough to maybe get into that postseason wildcard position, I think.
Yeah, and they have actually a really good opportunity week 18 to get the division crown if they can beat the Texans and the Jags lose. Like they need those two things to happen, obviously. But week 18 is huge for the Colts. Can they get a wild card? I don't know. I'd have to see what exactly is a part of that, and we will probably go over that during our predictions episode on Thursday. But they have a really good shot at the division, which is not something you thought you would think when in week 6, 7, or whatever it was, you hear Anthony Richardson, their rookie quarterback, is out for the season. You don't think that. You don't think, oh, they have actually a shot for the division in week 18. No, you're thinking maybe a 7 seed, right? Maybe a playoff. But Houston's playing so much better. So why are they even in the contention? Yeah, the Colts are in contention right now. And they could beat Houston, and they just need the Jags to lose to get that spot in terms of the division. You talked about what Jonathan Taylor did with his rushing stats and the touchdown. Gardner Minshew threw for a touchdown, a 58-yarder to Alec Pierce. And what this defense was able to do is basically get the Raiders, shut them down, when it mattered the most. Because, hey, Aiden O'Connell, he had almost 300 yards, 2 of those touchdowns, both of them to Devontae Adams. They played a lot better offensively than they did last week when they could not complete a fucking pass after the first quarter. So they played really well. But this loss, like you said, knocks them out of contention for the playoffs. And like I said, I don't know if they would have gone far. They were definitely looking at a first-round exit if that were the case, if they were, by some miracle get into the playoffs. But you know what? The Raiders, for kind of all the ups and downs they faced this season, the firing of McDaniels and their GM, Devontae Adams being unhappy with the play, Jimmy G not really being the guy that they signed in the offseason, going with Aiden O'Connell. And there was another quarterback, right, that they went with for a little bit. Forget the name of the quarterback, but after that they went with Aiden O'Connell. Dude,
I can't remember his name either.
Yeah, I can't remember either. But AP, their interim head coach, he's making a really great case for himself to get that job.
He should.
For head coach. Yeah,
he definitely should. He's won the locker room. That's easily, the one thing you can't lose. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they say. So by default, he should win the job. If I'm the owner, he's got the job, and then we'll give him a 1-year contract. Okay, I'm not saying, let's put this guy to a 10-year, but he's earned 1 more year.
Like a John Gruden.
Yeah, we're not going to John Gruden this bitch. I think the Raiders are paying 2 coaches right now that aren't on staff, John Gruden and Josh McDaniels. So they got to make sure that this next guy is a home run. So that's why maybe John Harbaugh would be or Jim Harbaugh would be in the conversation, but we'll save that for the offseason when we're fishing for things to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Jags, since we were just talking about what's at stake next week. Brian Hoyer.
Thanks, Bill.
So the Jags, they have been kind of an interesting team. They were my prediction to be a number 1 seed, and it just at one point in the season, around week 7, 8, it looked good. And then they kind of had this midseason collapse, and this was what we said, a get-right game. Jacksonville's defense shuts out Carolina. They definitely got right. Ingram, Beathard, and Travis Etienne had, I think, all had a good enough game, and the Jags are still in the playoff race with this win. But if Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be healthy, I think it's just a matter of time. It's like a ticking bomb. You don't. I would say most of the time, who wins the Super Bowl, who goes to the Super Bowl, and that's what's really important. Most of the time, you can tell based on November and December who's going to make it there. Like, it doesn't matter what you did all year. If you're the hottest team in November and December, you're going to be the favorite to win. And the problem is Jags are benching or having to sit Trevor Lawrence week 17. So even if he plays next week, you can hardly say that the Jags have real momentum going into the playoffs, no matter what happens next week. And I think that's going to hurt them ultimately. And I think it hurt their chances of making it to the Super Bowl this year, which I thought at one point that they could.
Yeah, and we mentioned about the Colts game next week because the Colts beat the Jags next week. That could, or I'm sorry, if the Jags lose next week and the Colts win, that's it for the division, right? So I mentioned that, and the Jags are in prime position to still get the division. But like Kyle said, with Trevor Lawrence being out, and it's kind of like finally they took him out for a bit and put in CJ Beathard, because they ended their four-game losing streak, and that was with Trevor Lawrence in those games, trying to overcompensate for whatever injury he had sustained, right? So CJ Beathard played a decent game, and they were lucky enough to play the Panthers in a Week 17 match, because the Panthers are dog shit, and they played a dog shit team, and they dominated 26-0. CJ Beathard threw for, I believe it was 178 pass yards, but like Kyle said, Travis Etienne and McManus, the kicker, were the offense. Travis Etienne rushed for 2 touchdowns, and McManus got the rest of the points on kicks. So it was really mostly those 2 guys on the offensive side for the Jags that really got the job done. And again, CJ Beathard kind of came in, did a game managing role, and was able to manage them into a win, which is all you could ask for. But if the Jags are able to get into the playoffs, I think next week, man, I don't know how important this game is to them, if they can still somehow make a wild card. But with Trevor Lawrence playing the way he had been for the last few games, and CJ Beathard and Travis Etienne doing what they were able to do, and the defense is going to be coming off a very, very dominating win, it kind of boosts morale there. I think you go with CJ Beathard instead of Trevor Lawrence in Week 18. Again, depending on, can they still make it to the playoffs, and how is Trevor Lawrence doing? How is his recovery process doing? But I think with CJ Beathard in, and how Travis Etienne played against this team against the Panthers, I think this might be a formula for success for the Jags, where you don't necessarily need stellar quarterback play. You just need Travis Etienne to rush the ball, run the ball, because he is a first-round pick, and he has proven this season that he's a very damn good running back. And you need some well-timed field goals there to win games, which is exactly what the Jaguars did to this. And I mean, I think the story for the Panthers part is David Tepper throwing his drink at a Jags fan. That's how dominating. Yeah, that's how dominating the Jags were against the Panthers. David Tepper in his suite in Jacksonville. There's a video of him being so mad with a fan that he grabs his drink from his suite and tosses it at him outside of his suite.
Wait, he was ridiculous. So mad he did that.
I don't know if the Jags fan was talking shit, saying something. It must have been something he said. But David Tepper, owner of the Panthers, threw his drink out to that person. Dude. And was fined $300,000 by the NFL.
Dude,
isn't that a ridiculous fine?
Weird. Fines are so weird. Like, I guess, should fines be proportionate to the income of a person?
I think so.
I guess, yeah, to a certain point, until it's obnoxious. Until it's like a billion. I mean, like,
yeah.
People do that shit all the time in the parking lot. And I get it. Like, he's the owner. He shouldn't do it. And he has to get fined. But holy shit, dude.
That's a lot of money.
$300,000. That's an expensive. He probably doesn't care, but that's so much money. I really hope that they donate this money.
I think they do. And Bill says he's worth $20.5 billion. That dude is rich.
Walmart money, that's pennies compared to Walmart money.
$300K, you're talking about.
My owner's richer than your dad.
The Jags, though, too, Bryce Young didn't get shit done, obviously, in this game, had an interception. And again, to credit the Jags defense, got sacked 6 times. So nice little morale boost for this Jags team.
Nice little morale boost. And this isn't going to be a morale boost for our good friend William, aka Bill. Sorry that we're going to have to talk about this game. Puka Nacua, it might be one of the best receivers in the NFL. He has quickly, because remember how high we were on Cooper Kupp? Cooper Kupp's still great. The only reason we're not talking about him as much is because of Puka Nacua. And he had an explosive, oh, that's hot, reception. After explosive reception, he's, I don't know what his average reception yard per reception is, but I bet it's in the 20s or high teens. Jalen Hyatt had 3 receptions for 25 yards. Little underperforming what we expected with that deep threat in veteran Tyrod Taylor. He's Tyrod Taylor. I thought that he looked better than how people remembered him.
Mhm.
But I always thought that Tyrod Taylor had a lot of football left in him, and I was really high on Tyrod Taylor. He did really, really well in Buffalo right before they got Josh Allen.
Mhm.
And then in the Chargers, he had that neck thing, and he's kind of bounced around a little bit. But
Yeah.
he's still – I just don't know why it took this long. Like, if I had Tyrod Taylor on my team, I would have probably had him over Daniel Jones on my depth chart. I
Yeah.
still think Tyrod Taylor might be the best quarterback, but I think the perception is that he's not. This is a really good Rams team, and this Giants team almost won this game at home. And this was a game that when it was America's most bet on team was the Rams this week. And part of that is because the Rams are really hot with Matthew Stafford and the offense is going really well and Puka
Mhm.
Nacua. But the other part of that was the Giants are not a good team this year. And boy, was everyone wrong about this game. And I mean, millions of dollars were saved because of the way this game ended.
Mhm.
But the Rams get the win ultimately. But I think the bigger thing is like maybe they should have gone with Tyrod Taylor a little bit earlier this season.
Yeah, because he kind of balled in this game, man. He had over 300 yards of passing. He had 319 pass yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and rushed for 40 yards. He was one of the big reasons that the Giants were in it, right? I mean, obviously, he had a punt return touchdown with just a little over 3 minutes left, in the game, and that's kind of when they went for 2. And for as well as Tyrod played the game, he missed a wide open Saquon in that 2-point conversion to win it. So you can blame Tyrod for missing it. You can blame Brian Daboll for wanting to go for it instead of tying it and going in overtime. There's over 3 minutes left, right? Like you would expect to have that ball back, and it just was not the case. But Tyrod Taylor, like you said, may have been the better choice. Obviously, he got hurt too. In like Crafty said, he has trouble doing so. He's just had a career in which injuries just have completely wiped him off the face of quarterback earth. You know what I mean? And it sucks because he has games like this, and he had games like earlier in the season against the Bills where you're just like, man, this guy can maybe win some football games. It's just a question of how healthy is he and can he stay that way. As far as the Rams, Matthew Stafford didn't have an amazing game. He did not. I mean, he had 2 interceptions, but the Rams as a whole offense had over 400 yards of offense, or almost 400 yards. Kyren Williams was the best player on this offense today. 3 touchdowns, only 87 yards rushing. Call that efficiency, right? And you're right about Nacua, man. 5 passes, 118 yards. And of course, Kupp had a touchdown. So they were, this offense was still very good. And it kind of goes to show that this offense doesn't go as Stafford goes. It really is a combination of Stafford, Nacua, Kupp, and how well Kyren Williams can rush the ball. And again, he didn't surpass 100 yards rushing, but he got those 3 scores that are a huge help. And the Rams were able to secure a spot in the playoffs with that win. And of course, the Steelers beating the Seahawks, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, and the Rams were a lot of people. It was their dark horse team. And I know we even had people that were watching the stream that were like, the Rams, I think, are the only team that can compete with San Francisco. We had people saying things like this when the Rams were putting up, because remember this, the Ravens beat everybody, like really bad. Now, when the Ravens and Rams played, the game went to overtime and it took a punt return to put the Rams away. After that game, everyone was like, the Rams are the team that can, make a playoff push and maybe make the Super Bowl. Now, because they played a Giants team that played really well at home, you're going to see people are more down on the Rams this week. And especially when it comes to betting and stuff, you're going to see, all of a sudden we're not so high on the Rams because it's all knee jerk. That's
Spreads
what
are going to dip.
Yeah, and that's what I was just saying about the NFL. Like, it's just one game, but at any given Sunday, the Giants can beat the Rams, even though the Rams almost beat the Ravens. It doesn't mean the Giants would play a close game with the Ravens if they played next week. It's just that's what's almost like impossible about the NFL is trying to figure out who is who and who's. And I think one thing I can say for sure, I know at times you thought the Giants maybe their head coach wasn't safe. I think the way that the Giants are playing right now with nothing to play for, I think it's inspiring enough where you got to keep your head coach. You got the right head coach, but you've had a carousel of quarterbacks this whole season, and the Danny DeVito. I mean, it's not going to get. It's a good story
Hey,
when you
no
got.
way.
Yeah, it's a good story when it's a down year, but if you want to
Mhm.
win Super Bowls, we got to have better things to talk about, and
And
this is what I think Brian Dable can bring to New York, a championship eventually.
and really the big question for the Giants, and Bill obviously is going to be one of the fans that is going to be pondering this, is like, do you go back to Danny Dimes, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think you might have to, but also like the product he's put on the field hasn't been this amazing like $40 million a year type quarterback product, right? But I think that's just a huge question, because look at what the Denver Broncos are doing with Russ. They paid him a ton of money, but you can always let go of money. Money's going to come back in the future, no matter what. It's about what kind of product you can put at the right time with the right coach, with the right weapons. That's all that matters. That timing's got to be correct.
yeah, and the timing right now for the Rams, I think, is pretty good. They're definitely one of the hot teams going in to the playoffs, like we talked about, getting hot at the right time. A team that's not going to be getting hot at the right time is the Philadelphia Eagles, who got upset at home by a Cardinals team. That I'm going to start to take a step back here, and I'm not going to overreact here. But if it were any type of overreaction Tuesday, then I would say this is going really well for the Cardinals, and they this is a win that absolutely matters at this point in the season. It's a lie if you don't think Arizona's head coach is trying to figure out if Kyler Murray's the guy moving forward or if they should move off of him. And Jonathan Gannon is probably the coach based on how the Cardinals are playing right now. Look at how the Eagles are playing coincidentally without him.
Yeah.
He was able to beat his former team and do it with a Cardinals team that had nothing to play for. That means a lot. And Kyler Murray had a really good game in this one. He was running. I think he had a rushing touchdown at one point, maybe. But yeah, what's your takeaway in this game? I still think the Eagles are a good team and all that. I just think that this one meant a lot to Arizona. And just like when Josh McDaniels beat Bill Belichick week 5 in 2010, it didn't ultimately matter. The Broncos didn't make it to the playoffs, and the Patriots won the Super Bowl, or went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and things like that happen, right? It's just that the Eagles right now are in some trouble. They really are in some trouble. Go back to when Sirianni and the Eagles went into Arrowhead. They beat the Chiefs. He's going down the tunnel. How do you fucking like that, Chiefs fans? He's fucking gloating about it. The Eagles just come off a big win against the Chiefs. They're looking like solid contenders for a Super Bowl again for the second straight year. Jalen Hurts is looking like an MVP. Nick Sirianni doesn't look like he's going anywhere from Philadelphia. And you fast forward now, they're 2-4 since that time, since that win against the Chiefs. And they look bad, man. They led.
What goes
the
around
Cardinals.
goes around,
Goes
goes one way back around.
And that's exactly true, man. That is exactly true, because they were up 15 going into halftime. The Cardinals were down 15 points. The defense for the Eagles allowed them to get 15 points in the third quarter. And then the Eagles were outscored 14-10 in the fourth for the Arizona Cardinals to win. The Eagles defense is in trouble, man. This unit was great for this first half of the season. We were looking at them like we were looking at the Chiefs, like their offense is still good, but this defense is really saving them in a lot of these games. They're coming away with picks. They're coming away with sacks. They've got a ridiculous pressure rate. Jalen Carter is probably going to get Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he was playing like it all season, but especially in that half. And now it's like, well, are the Eagles going to be able to make a run? Like, are they a one and done? Are they going to be able to get the division? Are they going to be a 7th, a 6th wild card? Like, it's starting to look bad. And Nick Sirianni is looking bad too. You know, I've listened to some podcasts with some Philadelphia Eagles fans, and they're somewhat split in the middle of like keeping Sirianni or getting rid of him. And this is a crazy thing to think about.
Saying.
It's a crazy thing to think about because he just went to the Super Bowl last year.
I got so much shit for this when I said he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was like, no, like he's literally Jalen Hurts was doing everything. That offense is so talented. That defense is so talented. They had a great offensive coordinator and a great defensive coordinator. Sirianni was literally just along for the ride, and he knew that.
Yeah.
He admitted that, and he was like, honestly, I'm just happy to be here, which is fine because he admitted it. But now you lose two of your great coaches, and you lose a little bit of talent, and now it's time for your head coach to really be that head coach that's going to bridge the gap like Andy Reid's trying to do in Kansas City right now. And I'm not saying that he can't do that, but I'm saying we don't know if he's a good coach or not yet because we have to wait and see how he responds to this. This is when we find out what a coach is made of. And I'm just not going to crown him because a lot of talented teams take bad coaches to the Super Bowl.
Could not agree more, man. And actually, you know, that being said,
can't agree more.
Can't agree more because you saw what Gannon did. He came back on his former team, and that's huge for a coordinator who leaves a team for a head coaching job and is able to beat that team in like awesome fashion, come from behind fashion, the way he did it. And Kyler Murray threw for 3 touchdowns in this game, and James Conner had the game-winning touchdown with 32 seconds left in the game. Like, this team, like you said, it's looking really, really good for the Cardinals because Kyler Murray's playing like Kyler Murray. You know, they were hoping how Kyler Murray was going to play when they picked him up. James Conner has been awesome. Now he just needs to stay healthy and really be that number 1 running back there. And they've got a couple of good weapons there in terms of like a tight end, the guy that is solid that you can always throw to, that is a big target. And you know, they got a couple of wide receivers that aren't big names yet, but are having solid seasons with Kyler Murray there. And I think with Gannon, it's just going to go up from there for Arizona, you know, depending on what they do in the draft. But the Eagles, man, again, we talked about their defense and how it kind of carried them. They did have a 99-yard pick six, which is awesome by a rookie, Sidney Brown, his first touchdown in the NFL.
I was gonna shout that out in case we didn't. So
okay.
I'm glad you did. I was just gonna say it was
awesome.
The fastest play by an Eagles ball carrier in over 2 seasons. Brown traveled 126.7 yards on the play, the most distance traveled on a pick six since week 5, 2018. That was Marcus May, had a 140-yard interception return. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, big props to him. Like, we talked about the defense and how they let down the entire team really in that second half. But they came up with some good plays in that first half. And that one, the 99-yard return, is probably, like, you know, the most exciting play for that defense that they've had in a while. So, again, Eagles not in a good spot, but you said it best about what their coach has to do from here on out. If they make the playoffs and they're a division leader or they're in the wild card, you've got to be able to kind of flip that switch, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of great coaches do that, and we've seen it year after year, playoff after playoff, where that happens. Hey, they're not looking so good. They just had the first round bye or something like that, and their last 2-3 weeks of football weren't great, but yet they turn it on, right?
Yeah.
Like almost Mahomes and the Chiefs as of recently, you know, is an example. It's just that's what Sirianni has to do. Be like, hey, we know who we are, guys. We've got Jalen Hurts. We got an MVP guy. We got a great offense. We got a bunch of great weapons. Our defense has been a little rough, but we know the weapons we have on the defense too. Let's go in the playoffs. Go back to the Super Bowl like we did last year, baby. Let's go. You know,
and
that's
honestly,
what he has to do.
Yeah. And I was gonna say honestly that, and take this with a grain of sand, but grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
With Jason Kelce on this team and Jalen Hurts, they're already going to be doing that for the team.
Yes.
And that is going to be done. Like the question is Sirianni going to be with them on that, or is that going to be, is he a liability or an asset? You know, is he going to?
Great question.
And that's what we're going to figure out. But even with this team, like I look at the Giants and what Brian Daboll's done. Like who's on that team that you're like, oh yeah, that's like the wise old guy. Like I'm sure they have a couple players, but as an outsider, it's not like they have, you know, Jason Kelce and Jalen Hurts, like two of the strongest leaders in the NFL on the same team.
Mhm.
those are really strong leaders. So I look at that coaching job and see how the Giants turn their season around with that's a coach. That's a coach leading his players. It could even happen for Philly, and it could be Jason Kelsey and Jalen Hurts doing it, not even Sirianni. I'm just
Mhm.
saying, like, I'm just saying.
Oh, okay, I thought you were gonna keep going. I
No,
thought you were
no.
gonna talk to your burp, but yeah, no, you're 100% right about Kelsey and about Hurts, because those are the veteran guys in there who, you know,
One sec.
Kelsey has won
Holy
something. Kelsey
shit.
has won a Super Bowl. That was a little weird. Kelsey has won a Super Bowl, and Jalen Hurts has won an MVP and went to a Super Bowl last year. So these are the guys that are really kind of gonna ground this team and be like, kind of like what I said. We know who we are. We know who we can be. Let's go out there and do that. That's what they need to do, man.
People have been telling me how to say Brian Dable's name for a
Crafty.
long time.
I think, and it's so funny because when you said dabble, I was like, oh, Bill's gonna come in with the
Dude,
correction
every
here.
time I change it, it just goes back from Dable to Dabble. And then I say Dabble, and then I read the
Mm.
comment. It's like, it's Dable. And I'm like, did I not say Dable? I thought I made the switch.
I think we're gonna say the bowl now. We're just gonna say the bowl now.
Just guys, just be nice to me. Like I'm not trying to do this. Like
Look, Kyle is a little slow.
a little bit.
All
Like
right, just a little bit.
just be gentle.
Bill said I've given up on Table and Kyle.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this game that's taking place in the NFC South in a division that's going to come down to the wire. The
Mhm.
Saints get a win over the Bucks. The Bucks were looking really good. Baker Mayfield was having really good games, especially the one in Lambeau comes to mind. And once again, we kind of overcorrected because the Bucks were hot and the Saints were not.
Mhm.
And now we're all like, wait, whoa. Are the Saints the best team in this division? And I said like 6 weeks ago, I'm not doing this game anymore. I'll just pick somebody week 18 because these are all the same team. I'm
Yeah.
convinced that they are all the same people, coaches, uniforms, and they just have to take turns on who wins. And that's why it's so even. Besides the Panthers, they didn't get to play this game. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't believe in the Saints. I'm not going off any notes here about the game. I'm just going off of what I think watching this game, because I was watching most of this game. This was not the Bucks game. They were trying to get Mike Evans the ball. It was actually Chris Godwin that had the big touchdown. But you've seen when Mike Evans has a really great game, Baker Mayfield has a really great game. So when teams can take Mike Evans out of the game, you see the Bucks struggling more. And I think that's kind of what teams are trying to do right now to the Bucks, is just take Mike Evans out because he's so good. But I just don't believe in the Saints or Derek Carr.
Yeah, and it's been hard all season to believe in those guys. You know, again, I was the one who said that they were going to win the division the minute they got Carr. And throughout the entire season, I've been like, can they even get into the playoffs and a wild card? Like, they don't look like that division winner at all. And really, you go down the line and, you know, you mentioned the Panthers and the Bucks and the Falcons. None of these teams look like they should earn, or they can earn, a division crown. Like, none of these teams look worthy of it, really. Like none of them. But someone's got to win. And unfortunately, you know, the Bucks, you know, they were riding a hot streak. They were looking good. We were talking about how Baker Mayfield was doing really, really well. And, you know, the Bucks might not even have a quarterback controversy or questions about it going into next year. But he had a bad game. And like you said, it's almost like Baker goes as Mike Evans goes. You know, Rachaad White was nowhere to be found. They got some garbage time touchdowns there at the end and a couple field goals, which was really the only scoring they did. But also the Bucks turned the ball over 4 times versus the Saints 0. So that was a huge reason.
Yeah,
obviously why this game.
99.7.
Yeah, that's a huge reason why they were not able to get anything going in the first 3 quarters. The Saints defense are they just eliminated Baker Mayfield and Rachaad White, 2 big weapons. And of course, you know, coverage on Mike Evans, you know, it was just a great showing by the defense of the Saints. And Carr was still able to get 2 touchdowns off in this game. You know, he got one to Juwan Johnson, and Taysom Hill only threw for 197 yards, but that's all he needed today. That's all he needed today. Alvin Kamara did go out with an injury, I believe, early in the game. So got to monitor that, because week 18 is going to be huge for the Saints, for the Falcons, and for the Bucs. Either one of these teams can possibly win the division. So it's
even the Panthers.
Even the fucking Panthers can win this. So it's good. Week 18 is like, this is another week 18 game where all of these teams have a very, very good shot at still being able to win the division and hosting a playoff game for one of the wild cards. So if the Saints win, my prediction was correct from, close to a year ago. And if they lose and the Bucs win, then good for Bucs, good for Baker Mayfield. He gets another shot in the playoffs. Good for him. I'm rooting for really either one of these teams to win, because
Baker.
I do want Baker. Baker in the playoffs will be fucking electric, dude.
Shaking Baker, baby.
Shaking Baker.
I don't want to see the Saints in. I would rather see Baker in. But if I had to pick a different team, it would be the Falcons.
Yeah,
and I like the Falcons.
And I think as a Saints fan, you almost don't want to make the playoffs because you want this coaching staff gone. You want Dennis Allen gone. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. You want some changes to be made.
And they're definitely coming their way too.
Oh,
those changes. Not but yeah, I picked the Falcons to win this division, so I'm gonna stick to that. I'm gonna ride or die. I'm not quitting now. But the Alvin Kamara injury is worth noting. So this is the injury update I have. One of the 3 New Orleans Saints players who left the game Sunday, at least one suffered a serious injury that will require a lengthy rehab, while the status is a little less clear on the others. Linebacker Nafi Sewell had tore his ACL in the game, so that's bad. And then it's not very clear about Kamara, but this is what Dennis Allen said. Mm-hmm. As for Alvin Kamara's sprained ankle, much less is clear. Allen declined to comment on his ankle, whether it's a high ankle injury that would force him to miss the sideline or force him to the sideline for the foreseeable future. And this is what he said. He said he was in rehab this morning. Obviously, we'll see how he responds throughout the week. So it's just like every ankle. We have no idea. You know?
It could take weeks. You could play on it, but look like shit. Whatever. It is what it is.
Is what it is. And then I'm going to throw up that next gen stat as always, as I get ready for this next game, which was a really good game, but there was something really bad that happened in it. And I think you know what that bad thing is. And if you had 7-leg parlay with the only thing remaining, Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown, then it really hurt when the 49ers lost Christian McCaffrey for the game.
Very specific, Kyle. Very specific.
Dude, I took a screenshot just to be like, look how close I was, but got fucked. CMC has scored in every game besides one. He was the safest one out there. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. But yeah, let's talk about the game a little bit. Brock Purdy has a pretty good game. He needed a bounce back game after they got dismantled by the Ravens. He had 4 interceptions also last week. So this was a really important game for him mentally, I would imagine. He completed 22 for 28, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, 124.7 passer rating with an efficient rushing attack at his side. Clean pocket, 0 sacks on the night. Purdy was his usual self, pinpointing his receivers with great accuracy. Everything that we love about Brock Purdy was being done. I think it's safe to be like, okay, like we can jump back on that 49ers bandwagon. They're allowed to lose a game every now and then, right?
Yeah. It really was just the way in which they lost that game. They looked just completely overmatched, right? But like you said, man, they had a bounce back game, and it was against the Commanders. It was against Sam Howell, though. We talked about it last week, where I was saying, oh yeah, Jacoby Brissett is going to start, but he was also injured in practice, which led to the Sam Howell starting the game. And Sam Howell did not have a good game at all this week. 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He just looked rough. They just looked rough in this game. He did have one of Scary Terry McLaurin, so that was good. You know, Scary Terry really hasn't been I wouldn't say he hasn't been a weapon this year, but it's like we don't hear his name as often as much as we're saying, oh yeah, the Commanders sucked, you know, and they lost.
Right.
And then this is their 7th game in a row that they've lost, the Commanders. So they are looking like a team on the verge of a rebuild, or, you know, retool, whatever you want to call it. New management or new ownership has stepped in. Ron Rivera's out as head coach, you know, in the offseason, and we'll see what happens with their offensive coordinator, Bieniemy. But for the 49ers, bounce back game. They're back on track offensively going into the playoffs. They secured their number 1 seed for the NFC. They secured their first round bye. And really, if we know anything about the 49ers, is at least this year after their bye, they came back strong, and they came back with like a vengeance. So this first round bye week for them in the playoffs might be a very, very good thing for them kind of going forward in these playoffs. They got one more week of football to play left, obviously, but they've already secured the number 1 seed. Who knows if Brock Purdy and the, you know, first stringers will start next week, and if they do, how long they'll play for. But the 49ers have done their job, and they've done their job all season. They were just able to secure it this week in week 17. Just took them a little longer than we expected because of those losses. But yeah, man, they did really well against this team in which you had to do it. You had to have a really good game. Deebo Samuel, I believe, scored, as well as Brandon Ayuk. Mitchell had a rushing touchdown for over 400 yards of offense. Defense looked fucking sick. So this is one of those, another overall win by the team, not necessarily just on one factor of the team. It was the entire team win. So good for them getting back on track.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a really shocking win. I didn't see this coming, but Mike Tomlin's also a really good underdog coach on the road. And with Seattle playing for the playoffs in the 12s, being out, I thought that this would just be an overwhelming atmosphere, and the Steelers would play a close game because they're well coached, but eventually I thought that they would lose this game. And the Steelers remain in the playoff picture too, getting this huge road win. And Mason Rudolph, not only are they 2-0 with Mason Rudolph, but is Mason Rudolph good? I was watching him play, and like, the one thing I will say, I don't think Mason Rudolph is good, and I don't like him. But dude, they're not asking him to do that much. I'm watching these games every time they were in the red zone, it was what? I'm like, dude. And then the one time he like went to pass, he just like looked, didn't see what he wanted, and flung it into the audience. And I'm like, dude, you didn't even have any pressure on you. Like, why not just like look around and try to buy some time? Like, he's just like, nope, fuck it. And I'm like, dude, okay, they're not asking Mason Rudolph to be Patrick Mahomes.
That's true.
And I think that's kind of working right now, because they just need competent quarterback play, and this defense can do a lot on their own. And maybe Mason Rudolph is going to be the guy that takes the Steelers into the playoffs.
He very well could be, man. And you know, you said it, you know, yourself. The rushing game for this Steelers team in this game was outstanding. Najee Harris had 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jaylen Warren had 75 yards and a touchdown. Over 200 rushing yards as a team. It's just like, you get rid of Matt Canada and you kind of want to go with Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky as, you know, the quarterback, and you want to get the passing game going because of your receivers. You got 2 talented running backs there the entire time, and they finally have like a breakout type of game, right? Over 200 yards rushing again, and 3 touchdowns total for their running back duo there. So great on them to be able to use the running game to their advantage against one of the worst rushing defenses in the league, in the Seahawks. Like, they knew exactly what they were going up against, and they knew that, like you said, they didn't really need Mason Rudolph to do much, although he did get it to George Pickens quite a bit. He had 131 receiving yards. So Mason Rudolph did enough. He got it to his weapons when he needed to, and the running game, and like you said, the defense kind of took over in this game. And Mike Tomlin will yet again have another winning season as the Steelers head coach. So good on him. Has not had a losing season his entire career. He got 9 games.
17 straight.
17 straight for Mike Tomlin. And, he's doing it with some very questionable quarterback play. And, he had to fire an offensive coordinator earlier this year too. So on the up and up for sure. As far as the Seahawks, man, they missed a great opportunity this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can't necessarily expect to win these games against lesser teams, which in my opinion, even though they are the Steelers are in the AFC, what they've been doing, this year has been impressive, but also it's like the Seahawks, the way they beat the Cowboys, the way they beat the Eagles, the way they've beaten teams, it's like they could have definitely won this one, but their rushing defense was the reason they lost it. Let's see. Good offensive performance, but they were only able to score 3 field goals in the second half. Completely disappointing after like the game they had against the Cowboys and the Eagles. Like you're like, okay, this offense is looking good, but with Geno, man, it's not looking great. Even though he did have 290 yards and a touchdown, they were locking that Seattle offense down. Other than DK Metcalf, nobody else had over 100 yards receiving, and the rushing game for Seattle wasn't great either. So they kind of just missed an opportunity to get this dub and to really kind of, get closer to a playoff scenario. And now going into week 18, man, the Seahawks are looking for some help as well as getting a dub because Rams are already in, 49ers already clinched. Like you're hoping a lot of things happen in week 18 for you to have a chance. And I was one of the people that really liked Seattle going to the playoffs again for the second straight year. But with the way they played against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you were hoping they would get another one of those opportunities where it's the last minute fucking Geno touchdown and they win. But unfortunately, they couldn't do that, man. So they're going to need a lot of help in week 18. And I don't know if they're going to get it.
All right. Well, Denver Broncos get the win, but it's bittersweet because it comes with the news that we are eliminated from the playoffs, which really sucks. And I think the story of this game that people were tuning in to see was not a Broncos-Chargers game, but it was how Jared Stidham was going to do because of all the stuff that's gone on with Russell Wilson. And I just wanted to say something really quick about all of that because it's very confrontational right now. And there's a lot of people that are Team Russ. And it's funny because these are the same people that recently were just trolling Russell Wilson all last season, making fun of him for this, making fun of him for that. So I wrote something that I wanted to share. And then I also wanted to talk about it briefly. And I'll clip it later for Broncos country and anyone else. But the world has been affected by the Russell Wilson benching. A hard line has been drawn with Russell Wilson fans on one side and Sean Payton fans on the other. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan, and this is where I stand. I feel bad for Rush. I know how much he wants to be here. He even said he wanted to be here after the benching. They did a press conference in the locker room. And he even said, he's like, I still want to be here and win championships. And then he said, if not here, somewhere else. But he still was including Denver in all that. I personally, if Russ isn't going to play for the Broncos, I wish him to have success wherever he goes if he moves on to another place. But here's the deal with the whole Russell Wilson thing. Sean Payton was hired to come fix the Denver Broncos. Now, when you really think about what that means, Sean Payton was hired by Greg Penner. And in that interview, even our general manager, George Payton, he wasn't even allowed in the room. And a lot of people said, whoa, maybe he's like treating him like the kid. Like the adults are talking, you know what I mean? Stay out of the room. And what Sean Payton really wanted was full power and control. And this Russell Wilson deal has gone so bad that everyone's saying George Payton's going to get fired. But here's the thing. He might not, because Sean knows that if he doesn't fire him, George knows that he owes Sean. So Sean would get more control because he would control George Payton as general
Mhm.
manager. So he would get more control and, decide his players. But in that first interview process, he was hired $20+ million. The exact number wasn't even disclosed. Highest coach salary in the league to come fix the Denver Broncos. And you don't think they talked about Russell Wilson in this? I mean, of course they did. They're
Yeah.
brand new to the job, and Russell Wilson, he gets this massive contract like their second week on the job after buying the Broncos, and they just kind of rolled with it, and everyone felt good about it. And then they're like, shit, we need Sean Payton to come fix us. We run Walmart. We really need somebody like Sean Payton to be in full control here. And he's going to get that power. And with that power comes all of the responsibility for what happens from this point on. But this was a conversation, and they said plan A was to try to fix Russ. And if that didn't come, if Russ was not fixed, then plan B was Stidham. That's why the first day of free agency, Denver made a $10 million move for Stidham, because he was always plan B. We are in plan B right now because Russell Wilson was not fixed. His numbers were better and all of that. I get that. But as a person that watches every single Denver Broncos game, just because there's a couple amazing plays per game doesn't mean that Russ is missing wide open receivers, not throwing to the middle of the field, and running himself into sacks. This stuff is happening all the time during the games. I don't think Russ had the kind of year where Sean feels confident. He made numerous statements after games this season about simplifying the offense, shorter terminology. I think it got to a point where he was like, okay, I'm getting to a point where I can't run my offense. This quarterback is going to tarnish my legacy with the 7 plays I can call in the performance I'm getting. So I think that's what went into the move to Stidham. And people are saying, look, Stidham only had 16 points. It's like, the thing is you didn't notice a big difference with Stidham out there from Russell Wilson. And it was Stidham's first start as a Bronco. It should have been like, whoa, like, this guy's got a lot of work to do, but it was just kind of like what we've been having all season. And nothing about yesterday felt different. We had one big deep ball per game. Like it felt exactly the same, but there's no upside. Sean Payton doesn't believe that there's upside with Russell Wilson, whereas Stidham, we don't know what he is yet. So I think I wish Russ all the success, but to think like Sean has not treated Russell Wilson right because he was screaming at him on the sideline, sure. But that's not really what we're talking about. We're saying because Sean yelled at him on the sideline, does that mean that Russ should have to be the quarterback of the Denver Broncos? Like, let's not tie in things that aren't about what it's about. This is about Sean Payton making the Denver Broncos a Super Bowl contending team in the future. And I don't believe he thinks he can do that with Russell Wilson. I don't know if he believes he can do it with Jarrett Stidham, but that's why we're trying to figure these things out right now. And if you feel like Russell Wilson had such a good year that you can't get on board with this, then I don't know what you're watching, because I want all my quarterbacks to work. Drew Lock, I'm the first person to be like, yeah, you're wrong about my team and my players, and here's why. I can't do that. I watched all the games. I can't, with conviction, say that Sean Payton made the wrong move. I can say that it's business, man. It was a business decision, and the business is brutal and it's rough. And like I said, I'm in the middle. I want Russ to go succeed somewhere else, but it definitely, my loyalties with the Broncos. I'm not going to be so obsessed with this that I want us to either not play well or Stidham to not work out. We should be wanting to go through as many quarterbacks as it takes until we find our Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. Like, we need somebody like that. And Sean, I think for the kind of offense Sean's trying to run, he absolutely needs a quarterback like that. And just like every other team in the NFL, even the ones that are paid $200 million, if they don't play like a $200 million quarterback, then we're gonna keep looking, and the search will go on until somebody makes a big move. Like every franchise is always looking for that quarterback. And once again, the Denver Broncos are searching for that one. However, I think with Sean Payton, even if we don't have that guy, we'll still have an 8-9 win season. I would consider this our floor with Sean Payton as our coach. 8-win season is our floor. But the upside, we got to see what Sean can do with full control, with full drafting, with full all of that.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And, you're right about the whole, like, as fans, we want our team to succeed no matter what, whether we believe in the quarterback 100% or whether we just want him and the team to be successful. So I commend you on that, saying it out loud, because I have tough time saying that, because I'm talking about Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Jay Cutler, fucking Rex. These are the quarterbacks I've had to deal with. And all the time I am in Crafty said tear rolls down face in slow motion. It takes a lot, I feel like, for fans to really admit that. It's like, look, we can always say this quarterback isn't going to make it, but secretly while you're watching games, you're like, I want this quarterback to throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, something like that. Right. So totally agree. It just sucks the way that it happened to Russ in this situation. But like you said, man, if you're not doing what a $200 million quarterback has to do to win us games,
right,
then yeah, it really was a business decision, and business is very
messy,
and, well, not even very messy, but it's very like, this is what happens and this is a decision, and you're just kind of left there and you're like, what? And you're like, that's business.
And the last thing I'll say about it is, we are drafting at a position where we may be able to draft Washington's quarterback if we stay at 14. He's not projected to go early. Yeah. B, we could trade Jerry Jeudy and like Sean knows how to trade draft picks, so he could move. Like it's Sean fucking Payton. Like if he wants to move up to 10, he's moving up to 10. But I still think he wants to see what Jarrett Stidham is. I still think he wants to explore what they have there. But what were you just saying before your like last sentence?
About the business decision, or about, Russ not playing like $200 million. Oh
yeah. Yeah, because when Sean first got here and week 4 he cut Randy Gregory, we applauded that. We were like, wow, could you imagine, like, because he comes in, he's like, you are not a first round draft pick. You are not a $200 million quarterback. You are all just football players. You are all equals, and I will be judging, and you have to be the best to earn your 52 spot. We're not giving it out to anybody. And when he cut Randy Gregory, we were like, oh my God, Randy Gregory is the highest paid defensive player we have. And Sean just cut him. What a statement. And then he does it with Russ, and we all freak out. Like we just applauded him for doing it with Randy Gregory. And now he's doing it with Russ, and people are losing their minds. It's like, yeah, I mean, nobody's safe. Yeah. Haven't you realized, like, he made that very clear? So, but there's nothing I learned about this game, man. The Broncos got the win. I'm not going to do a deep dive into this. We didn't have Cortland Sutton in the game. Yeah. We had Lil Jordan Humphrey. We had I love Jordan Humphrey.
Name. I love that name, dude. That's a great name.
It is a great name. But the Denver got back to running the football well, and when there was a couple plays that Stidham made where I was like, Russ does not make that play right there. And I hate to say it, but it's true. There's a couple, like the touchdown pass that went to I think Brandon Johnson. It was like a practice squad guy that was elevated, but he was about to get sacked, and he stepped up and delivered that throw. And it was very clear. You're like, Russ doesn't make that throw. I've watched him for 2 years now. He doesn't do that one. So there was definitely a couple plays in there where you're like, okay, this guy's all right. But I thought he was very inaccurate. And I was expecting him to be more accurate and be quicker with his decisions, but it's his first game. So, and then the Chargers, they're dog shit right now.
Yeah, dog shit. 100% agree with that. And I just had a couple cool notes from this game. So Jarrett Stidham, 224 pass yards and a touchdown. This is his first win as a starting quarterback since 2018 when he was in Auburn. Like, that's insane. Like, it's crazy. And like you said, you expect all these things, but this is his first NFL game that he's starting in. You can't expect 350 yards, a bunch of touchdowns, and, him looking clean as fuck, right? Like, it's a building process. It's going to happen. For the the Broncos defense held the Chargers to 2-11 on third down. So defense was on it against this team. And Khalil Mack got to 100 sacks in his career in this game and his
Wow.
16th of the season. So, he's still got it. He still got it, man. Big ups to him. I still have his jersey, so big ups to him.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you going to wear it?
We'll see. The Bears have not yet earned the jersey, and I can't wear it next week. So.
No, because next week, we'll save it. We'll save it. All right. The Kansas City Chiefs played the Bengals. I thought the Chiefs didn't look great. They were down 10 in this game. I thought the Bengals were going to win potentially. Travis Kelce, dude, had like 2 catches for 12 yards. I don't know what's going on there, but the Chiefs are able to get the win, and they secured the AFC West in this game. Jake Browning, they executed perfectly in the beginning of this game. They went up and down the field every time they had the ball. They kept Mahomes on the sideline, and they had drives of 8 minutes and 39 seconds, 6 minutes and 29 seconds, and a short field 4 minutes and 23 seconds. And Cincinnati had a 21 minute 50 seconds to an 8 minute 10 second time of possession advantage, and a 17-13 lead in this game. But the Chiefs were able to come back into this game. Harrison Butker kicks the game-winning field goal, and you just go on feeling exactly the same about both of these teams.
Yeah, and I know you don't have to clap if you have to, Kyle, if you don't want to, but for the eighth straight year, the Chiefs, AFC West champions, like eighth straight year. I said you didn't have to. Kyle, I said you didn't have to clap. You didn't have to clap. You didn't have to clap. But yes, the Chiefs, come away with the division win in this, beating the Bengals. And I was 1 point off from my prediction. I said the Chiefs would win 24-17. They won 25-17. So
God, dog shit. Put a dog shit in the chat for Rick being way off on that one. Dog shit in the chat, everybody. Put a dog shit, Crafty Bill, everybody.
Kyle's not mad at all. But yeah, it was.
I need this.
The only thing you can say about this Chiefs team is, they're relentless in their pursuit of trying to continue to be the best team in the AFC West, if not the NFL, right? What I will say too is, like, you talked about Travis Kelce with only 2 catches. Rashee Rice is becoming that go-to guy for Mahomes. 127 receiving yards. Pacheco was the only one with the receiving touchdown from Mahomes, but Rashee Rice is looking like a number 1 wide receiver for Mahomes and the Chiefs. And I know it kind of sucks to hear, but we kind of talked about this, right? Like, Travis Kelce not getting any younger. He's probably no longer at his peak. He's on a downhill, part of his career now, and it's fine. He was very dominant in his time with Kansas City. So it's not like he was bad or anything, but Rashee Rice is starting to become that number 1 guy now. And it's very obvious in terms of the Chiefs offense. What else was I going to say? Mahomes, 245 yards and a touchdown. They were down going into the halftime, like you said, but Harrison Butker and the defense did the rest in the second half. The Bengals didn't score any points in the second half. The Chiefs kicked all the field goals they needed to win. And yeah, this was just a dominant win in the second half for the Chiefs. And Jake Browning, the story was awesome for those first 3 weeks as a replacement for Joe Burrow. And he's been pretty solid for them. He rushed for a score and threw for a score in the first half. But that was kind of it for the Jake Browning Bengals. Jamar Chase, only 41 yards receiving in this game, only 41. So the defense had its way with him, and they sacked him twice in a row on their final drive, and that's what sealed the win for the Chiefs.
Yeah, this is really cool. The next gen stat of the game, I'm going to put it on the bottom, but maybe I can even ask the question before the answer is revealed on the ticker. Rick, Patrick Mahomes has thrown for 4,000 yards in 5 of his first 6 seasons, joins only one other player. Who is that player?
Drew Brees.
Okay, now look at the bottom. Here comes
Peyton Manning. Wow. With 4,000 plus yard passing yards in 6 or more of a player's first 7 seasons. Wow, that's hell of a stat to go off of right there.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that is that's going to be it for this game, and then we get to, this is crazy. So 2 years ago,
Mhm.
on January 1st, we rented an RV, my family, and we went on a trip to Lambeau, and
Boo.
and we saw them play the Vikings week 17. It was like negative 11 degrees. It was freezing. And they smoked him. And I was like, man, seeing Aaron Rodgers throw like that thing he does.
Yeah,
like,
the little yeah.
And it was like a perfect ball, and it just landed so perfect. I was like, that's what that looks like? I
Mhm.
was blown away, dude. Anyway, it was like the same exact game, but this time it's Jordan Love.
Mhm.
And I'm watching this game, dude, and Jordan Love is making throws. All I got to say is, like, Jordan Love is the Packers franchise quarterback. He has a huge upside, and it's just hilarious. I did predict that Jordan Love was going to work, and I was high on him.
Mhm.
And I really do believe it's because of the way Green Bay handles their business, the last 3 quarterbacks. But I
Yeah.
think that's the most exciting part, is not even Green Bay getting the win. Yeah, they can still make the playoffs and all that, but just watching Jordan Love play at this level, I think the season's already a dub just watching Jordan Love do what he's doing right now.
Yeah, man, and it continues to pain me to say this, but Jordan Love is fucking good. Jordan Love is fucking good. He was perfect in this game. 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Jaden Reed has become his favorite target. He had 2 touchdowns in this game, Jaden Reed. He also threw one,
He was off. He was going off.
Yeah. He also threw one to Bo Melton, 6 passes, 105 yards, and a score. Like, this offense right now for the Packers is humming. It is going really well, and Jordan Love is a huge reason for it. Aaron Jones, I mean, at 120 yards rushing too, but it seems like the rushing game for the Packers is always up and down. And yes, injuries do definitely play a role into it. But we've seen games where they're both healthy. And we're like, run the fucking ball, Packers. What are you guys doing? But Jordan Love, man, has looked good, and we've praised him, for being aggressive and throwing the balls that he has. Like it's starting to work out a little bit more for him. And again, he looked good on Sunday Night Football. So good for him and good for the Packers, I guess. Yeah, no, definitely very attractive.
You like him?
Dude, you're so gay. But the bigger story in this one too, I think, was the Packers defense. They actually looked good in a game. You know what I mean? And that was against Jaren Hall, the rookie, but also Nick Mullins. He
Jaren
came
Hall
in.
was awful, dude. Don't read into it too much.
Yeah, Jaren Hall was awful. They got an interception off him. Yeah, and they sacked him. They strip sacked him. So they got two turnovers off that guy.
Idiot. Can we talk about that for a second? Like, what the hell was O'Connell thinking?
I had no idea. I was just about to get into that. Yeah.
Yeah, like you have this great game with
Mullins.
With Nick Mullins. And the whole time I was streaming that game, all I kept saying is, why the hell is Nick Mullins not in this game? And then he's like, oh, I want to see what this rookie is. It's like, you just saw what Nick Mullins is last week. So I got to believe that, like, because sometimes O'Connell, he's such a competitor that sometimes he'll like get mad even at Kirk Cousins in the series quarterback. He's like, why the hell did you just run a QB sneak on 4th and inches instead of calling me? He's like, I can help you. Let me call the plays. And you can see them like beefing a little bit. And I'm just wondering if something like that happened between Nick Mullins and O'Connell, because this makes no sense at all. And as soon as they put Nick Mullins in the game, they had way more success than the scoreboard lets you know, because they went for it a couple times on 4th down after marching down the whole field. But they had to go for it because they were trying to come back into the game and came away with no points. If they go with Nick Mullins from the beginning, like I wanted to make sure we talk about this, because like, what the hell, man?
And this was something that a lot of people were talking about. Why the fuck are you going with Nick Mullins? The Vikings still have a shot at the playoffs. You know what Jaren Hall is. You don't know what Jaren Hall is. What you do know is he's a rookie, and you know what Nick Mullins has done for you the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
He's given you exciting offense and a ton of passing yards and touchdowns. He's got his interception problem, sure, but Nick Mullins gave you the better shot to win this game against the Packers. The Packers defense had a great day against Nick Mullins. Who knows if they have a great day against Jaren Hall? Who knows if they have a great day against Nick Mullins if he starts the game? we're looking at a completely different game if Nick Mullins is starting. Possibly, right? We can play all those games if we want to. If the Bears would have won their 5 close games, but in this game, and then the Vikings defense had no answer for the Packers. Again, this just could have been a different game with Nick Mullins at quarterback instead of Jaren Hall to start it off. I don't know. Like you said, I don't know what Kevin O'Connell was thinking. I don't know if Nick Mullins was just, he felt like maybe he could guide Jaren Hall, into a better game than Nick Mullins would have given him. But you see what happens. And all they did was score a garbage time touchdown. Nick Mullins did in the fourth quarter. And that's what happened. There was just nothing going for this fucking Vikings team at the beginning of this game. And I do want to give credit to Jaden Reed, because he actually broke a franchise record for receptions for a rookie with 60 receptions in the season.
Wow.
So, good for him on breaking that record. But again,
I remember that.
The Vikings.
I remember the crew putting it up during the game.
And I forgot who he beat out. It was like something Sharp, I think was the name.
Sterling Sharp
was it something like that? Yeah, something like that.
Shannon Sharp's brother, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, man, it was a good game by the Packers. They took advantage of a bad defense, and the defense took advantage of a rookie quarterback, and that's how they got this win, which makes Week 18 against the Bears huge. It makes it huge because I think the Packers do not go into the playoffs if they lose that game against the Bears, and if they do lose, they need a lot of help. Gear? I don't have any Packers gear. What I won't be in is Bears gear, like you said, but you didn't give me any Packers gear, dude.
Do you have a green T-shirt?
What I do have is I have a Packers colored jersey that my wife got me that says what is it? Boba Fett. It's like Star Wars. So it's
green and gold.
It's green and gold. So I'll wear that.
I'm gonna mail you some cheese curds.
Oh, I'll eat the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I'm getting you some Wisconsin cheese curds for the game. We're gonna send you a DoorDash you some Miller Lite, and we'll put some beer brats on the stove.
Cheese filled, of course. Like Bill said, Packers must win out. So Week 18, I hope
There's only one game left.
I hope the Bears could beat them for the second year in a row that the Packers don't make it because of a Week 18 loss. I hope so.
Oh man.
and it adds to the fire even more because Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show, we got Tyler in here. Ownership continues this week. Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee show goes, "This is the Bears Super Bowl. If they don't beat us, is it really a rivalry?" And I was like, "Oh, I fucking hate you, Aaron Rodgers. I fucking hate you, you piece of shit." They're going down. The Packers are going down again in Week 18 of the 2023 NFL season, and they're not going to make the playoffs because of what? An NFC North rival. And on top of that, the cherry on top, it's the fucking Bears, Packers. So wave bye-bye to the playoffs in Week 18, baby. You bitches are going down.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
All right. Well, I loved that. That was awesome. I will be going for the Packers in this one game, only a couple times a week, or a year, or that you're upset about it. I'm like, no, I don't. I go for them more than a couple times a week, but
I hate you. I hate you, Kyle. I hate you. Can't wait till the Broncos take on the Raiders next year.
No Monday Night Football, no Thursday Night Football. Life has already started to throw what no football feels like in our face. Yeah. College football was pretty good though. We didn't plan this, but did you enjoy the college football? I saw today, not yesterday, but I saw today that you were really active during the Alabama game on Twitter. So is that the one that you watched more, or were the Washington? Did you watch both of them? Because I know you go for Washington too.
Yeah, I like UW. Yeah, I love UW, and it's really been more of a love that of UW is like, oh, 1, they're good. 2, they're going to be in the Big Ten next year, and 3, I'm in the state of Washington. UW. And Michigan, I've loved Michigan for a while now. So for them to be for them to come away with the win last night against Bama was awesome. And like you said, I was very active during that game, and they're both good. I didn't I didn't finish the UW game, but I know they came away with the win. They stopped Texas, which good. You got to stop Texas. They don't deserve to be in there.
That was a crazy ending, though. That last play, I was like,
Yeah.
God, oh man, that was such a crazy game because when
For the Michigan Alabama.
No, the Texas Washington game because
okay.
Washington was up 13, and then their odds were plus 5,000. So I put like $2 on Texas to come back and win because I thought they were going to come back, but I wasn't sure if they would win. But I thought they would
Yeah.
score, get the ball back, and all that.
Yeah.
And an injury from Washington actually helped Texas because
Oh wow.
stopped the game, and
Yeah.
then Texas gets the ball. They march all the way down the field, and then they're like 20 yards away, and they had like they throw one ball away, and the game's over. But they put 1 second back on. They say the ball hit the ground with 1 second left, so they throw one more play back on, and it's like $400 if Texas scores on that play. And I'm like watching the game at the edge of my seat, and I'm like, oh fuck. Oh well, it's $2.
Yeah. $2 is $2, but
it was fun.
I was telling my wife, I was like, this is the only time I give a shit about college football.
Yeah,
this is the only
it's
time.
So great.
And the fact that Michigan and Harbaugh and UW are in it, and they're gonna be in it for the national championship game, it's gonna be fucking awesome, dude. It's
Michigan,
gonna be a
Alabama
great
is
game.
gonna be insane.
Michigan UW
or Michigan UW, yeah.
I was like, that happened.
Nick Saban made it.
No, Nick Saban. You remember Alabama? Crimson Tide? I know.
Did Nick Saban ever help you clean his garage?
All right, I'll give you that one. But, all right, Kyle, that was our week. Or did you have something else?
Nope, I was going to do exactly what you're saying. That is our week 17 recap.
All right, let's go in it, Kyle. Let's get right into it.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Top 5, Kyle.
Top 5.
All right, our favorite segment, and one that week 18, it's week 17. I think it's gonna be pretty. I don't want to say accurate, or we're gonna have the same teams, but I think we're gonna be a lot closer than we usually are. Would you agree, Kyle? Maybe.
I'm interested in this. I'm not entirely sure,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm excited to find out.
Let's do it. And I think you started last week, right?
I started last week. Yep.
Okay, cool. So then I will, and I love this comment by Crafty. Kyle's top 5 will have an empty space where the Ravens should be. So around number 1, got it. Number 5 for me is going to be a team that came away with a win this week, but lost to the Dolphins last week. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. They re-enter my top 5 this week after being left out of it last week. The Cowboys for me at number 5, Kyle, like you said, they got the division lead net right now. They still have a week 18 matchup, and I think the Eagles are still able to get it, but the Dallas Cowboys right now have the division lead and look great at home. Perfect record at home. It's going to benefit them a lot in the playoffs, and they can win out in week 18. They're going to have a home playoff game. So Cowboys number 5, Dak is looking good. CeeDee Lamb is a monster, and the defense is doing really well.
I can respect it. At number 5, I have the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh.
The Bills have jumped into my top 5 because they've won 5 of their last 6. They're also, to me, just a very, very dangerous team heating up right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had like 5 teams that I think are going to make it to the Super Bowl, they're all in my top 5 this year. And Buffalo is in, and Kansas City is not.
Love it. All right. Great. Good choice, by the way. Good choice. Number 4 for me.
Denver.
Even though they lost in a very controversial way, they lost to the number 5 team. I've got the Lions at number 4. They're still leading the division. They got screwed over in that loss against Dallas. They've got a good offense. Their defense has been a lot better recently. Kyle loves it. Kyle absolutely loves my
Put it out and put.
Their defense has just looked a lot better recently. And I think, going into the playoffs, it's going to be it's going to show a little bit more, and they won't be a one and done team. Again, the big things for me are get that running game going with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and stop those turnovers by Jared Goff, and maybe Dan Campbell go for overtime, dude. Let's just go for the overtime. I think it's going to be a good recipe for the Lions.
Yeah. Well, I'm not taking that bait. That's a whole debate, and I can't jump through that. We can't go through that door right now. And number 4, I have the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Dallas Cowboys played a really good game. I guess you could say they won the game if you want.
Mm-hmm.
And they, to me, proved that they're a top 5 team in the NFL. Like, they have their games where they lose. Like, they lost to the who did they lose to really bad?
Who, the Cowboys?
49ers.
Yeah.
That 49ers loss was really bad, but it feels like a long time ago. And with the way Dak Prescott's playing, the way McCarthy's going, the way they're running the football, CeeDee Lamb is having a incredible year. Like, CeeDee Lamb's having the kind of year that can take their team to the Super Bowl. Remember how Stephon Diggs was so big for Josh Allen? That's how big CeeDee Lamb is for Dak. Yeah, this is the best connection in the NFL right now. Quarterback to wide receiver, and the defense is playing at a high level with Dan Quinn and Micah Parsons. This is a team ready to play in a Super Bowl. So Cowboys at 4.
Love it. My number 3 team, I think you might like this one, Kyle. It's going to be the Browns. The first 3 letters, yes, there's correct. But the Browns are my number 3 team. They have clinched the playoff spot. They came off a very dominating win against the Jets on Thursday Night Football, and all this with Joe Flacco. All this without not Bradley Chubb, Nick Chubb. All this with a ton of other injuries. All this with Njoku being the best, his favorite target other than Amari Cooper. Stefanski might win Coach of the Year for what he's done with the Browns this year. All the just stuff that he's faced, the injuries, the moving around, the Joe Flacco falling asleep on the sidelines because he's an old man, all that stuff. He might win Coach of the Year, and that's why Browns are number 3 on my top 5.
At number 3, I have the Detroit Lions. The Lions beat the Dallas Cowboys on Saturday night. I don't care what they say. They went down there, and Dan Campbell showed his guts on the road in a hostile environment. He was going for 2. And what's even more attractive and hot about this whole thing is that Dan Campbell was talking to the refs pregame about what he was going to do in this situation, which is such a turn on. I think if you're a Lions fan, you feel really, really good about your coach. And yes, after the penalty, they should have kicked the extra point, but there shouldn't have been a penalty, and there shouldn't have been any of that. So I don't really care. To me, they went for 2 and it worked. And it was the right decision because it worked. And it was the right decision because it was Dan's decision and it was the team's decision. And that's just kind of how Detroit goes. They have guts and they have balls, and they backed it up on Saturday. I think if the Lions are in the situation again, they do the same thing, and maybe not in the playoffs, but the idea of them going forward on 4th and 3 and staying aggressive, that's got to be an idea that we got to get used to because it's part of their identity. And the reason they can be that aggressive is because they know that they can back it up.
All right. Love it. Didn't think they were going to make the top 5. Your top 5, to be honest. Number 2 for me, I've got the San Francisco 49ers at number 2. Obviously, last week they were also my number 2 after losing that big game against the Ravens and how bad they lost it too. No, the Niners.
You got them at 2?
Yeah, I got them at 2. I got the Niners at 2. So I'm taking the Niners because they had that comeback win. I don't know what Kyle's talking about over here.
I I just
But
can't believe they're not at 1.
I can believe it. And I think everybody in the comments and everybody listening and watching can believe it. 49ers, my number 2 team. Kyle, what you got at number 2?
At number 2, I have the Baltimore Ravens.
No,
No doubt they're
my
playing some good ball right now.
I can't believe
One
it.
of the best teams in the league. And the thing is, though, the 49ers are better. And I know that they lost to the Ravens, but we're not going to judge a whole team off one game. And the 49ers are a better team with Trent Williams, and they didn't have Trent Williams in that game. I still think the 49ers are a better team. In Miami, by the way, man, they made the Chiefs look good in Germany. So Miami's not that great. They just have so much talent on their team that when they're firing on all cylinders, they accidentally score 40 points. Like they have those type of nights all the time. But in the big picture, I don't think that the Dolphins are all that great of a team. I go back and forth on them week to week. Sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see it. And then sometimes I'm like, no, they're not that great. So I don't know. I know the Ravens had a dominant win, but I felt like that wasn't a great game for Miami. I still think the 49ers are better than the Ravens.
You're absolutely high, and that's why I have the Ravens as my number 1 team. They have been dominating these last
This is a nightmare.
6 weeks. 6 weeks in a row, Kyle. They have won. They have won 6 weeks in a row. They have not lost since mid-November. They continued the new year on winning. They locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC North. The 49ers went up against them, and we always, I feel like, take these types of games, and they're a measuring stick game for sure. And that may not mean much because look what the 49ers did to the Cowboys, and look what the Cowboys did after that loss, right? So it may not mean much, but as of right now, Ravens, my number 1 team across the NFL. So tell me why you have the Browns at number 1. Loser!
Wake me up. Wake
When
me
September
up. I'm
ends.
sleeping. Wake me up. Oh, I hate you. Yeah,
I know.
you're right. The Ravens are really good. Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Top 5, no debating.
One of our favorite segments. Okay.
Who's your number 1?
I thought I told you already.
No, you didn't. Is it the 49ers?
It's the 49ers.
All right,
Sorry,
all
no,
right.
I was like, yeah, I got the 49ers at 1. I thought so.
I mean,
sorry,
obviously, but I want you to say it.
Okay.
Say it.
Sorry. At number, well, we can cut that. At
All
number
right, say
1,
it, Kyle. Say it.
At number 1,
Top 5, no debate.
No, I'm just kidding. Let's go.
at number 1, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Oh my God, that was so funny. All that work to get me to say it just to be like, at number 1, top 5 to debate. No, I'm just fucking with you, dude. Go ahead. Oh God, that was awesome. 49ers are the best team in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey. Do we I was trying to see if there's anything about his injury that's come up because
Not that I've heard. No.
CMC will be all right. Okay. CMC will be all right. Very broad, but
Very
broad wording. But that is coming from San Francisco. We think he'll be all right, Shanahan said. I don't know if he would have been able to go next week or not, but we'll find out more tomorrow. So whatever it is, it's not super serious. It sounds like, but hopefully it's not something he's nursing going into the playoffs, because that is a huge, huge deal. But yeah, I think the 49ers, they'll get another shot to play the Ravens. If the Ravens are as good as you say they are, then they'll play them in the Super Bowl. And then we'll definitely be like on different sides. You'll be in purple and I'll be wearing my Brock Purdy t-shirt.
So hard.
And we'll get to the bottom of it. But I do think that if they play again, it would be a close game. And I think it'd be a great game. The way Lamar's playing right now is just great for television. Like sit down and watch a Ravens game. If you haven't done that this year, just sit
Definitely.
down and throw on a Ravens game. If you got no game on and you're sad on Thursday, just watch a Ravens game. It's
Yeah.
a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and I hate it so fucking much. I just hope that they start losing really bad. You know, I just hope that their franchise goes into like a 10-year dry spell. And
I mean, that's kind of what happened.
I just want their fans to like go to the games, like a sold out stadium, just for like 7 straight years, wondering when it's going to end. When is the suffering going to end? Why do we buy tickets? I want them to debate with each other on whether it's even worth it being a Ravens fan. So of course, I don't want them to win the Super Bowl. But yeah, I understand you
might.
having them at 1. I do.
Yeah.
But 49ers, I'm going to die on this horse.
I love it. Kyle's dying on that horse. I'm dying on this Raven. And that was
Top 5, no debating. Top 5, top 5, top 5.
At number 1, I have top 5, no debating. No, I'm just kidding, buddy.
Let's go. Say it.
Oh,
all right,
God.
Kyle. That was our top 5. And now let's end it with a little chives with your host, Kyle.
All right. So for my chives today, I'm going to give you, I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to give you the percentage of playoff probability going into week 18. Ravens, 100, Dolphins, 100, Chiefs, 100, Jags, 70, Browns, 100, Bills, 86, Colts, 55, Texans, 45, Steelers, 44. Now, if all of those teams I just named win, they're in, besides the Steelers. So the Texans, Colts, Bills, Browns, Jags all control their own destiny. And of course, Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs clinched. They control their own destiny with a win. However, the Steelers, they only have a 64% chance of making it in the playoffs if they win. Okay? And who?
Oh, I was just saying, because they're the only ones that don't control their own destiny, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So the Steelers are the only team that don't control their own destiny. All the other teams that are ranked seeding wise, 1 through 6, even 7, 8. That's what's crazy is it says they have a 100% chance of going to the playoffs if they win all the way into 8 different positions, but there's only 7 seeds. So those are going to be really tough. The Steelers need a little bit of help, but the Texans, Colts, and Bills, they just need to get a win, and it'll take care of itself. Probably because those teams are playing each other, right? So
yeah,
makes sense.
Exactly.
And then for the NFC, Niners 100%, Cowboys 100, Lions 100. Here is where that NFC South is. Bucks 66% chance right now of making the postseason. If they win, they're in. Number 5, Eagles 100, Rams 100. The Rams have clinched the playoffs with that win. Okay, so the Packers, they're at the number 7 seed right now. If they win, the Packers are in. If they lose and the Seahawks win, the Seahawks have a 41% chance of getting in, but they would probably need a little bit of help. I think that's how it would work. If the Seahawks win and the Packers lose, the Seahawks are in. This is exactly like last year. The Packers lost to the Lions and the Seahawks got in. We're literally reliving the same exact kind of scenario. And we'll see if the Bears do that too. But yeah, I just wanted to update everybody because it is week 17. And I know most of your teams and a lot of us we're not in this picture anymore. So if your team is in, congratulations to everybody and our viewers that are watching this later. If your team's in, congratulations. I hope you guys get hot at the right time and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and let us know what your team needs to do in the comments. And if they can do it in the comments. But as always, guys, thank you so much for for being unlimited. Watching us during this live stream. And if not watching us during the live stream, watching while this video is posted after we had gone live. We appreciate Crafty Bill, KC. We had Andy in here, Tyler, even though he's a Packers fan. I appreciate him too. Liam, for all you guys tuning in and, being a part of the Only Football Podcast family. As always, thank you guys for subscribing, commenting, following, liking videos, sharing them. And please, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button. Tell all your friends and family and people that you don't really know, but you kind of know, but not really that close. Have them subscribe to our channel because we are so close to 500. And I think we'll make it before the Super Bowl. I think
that we're going to end up having 1,000 subscribers by the end of season 3.
Let's go already. We're going to make it. Kyle is manifesting this shit to happen, and it's all thanks to you guys who make it happen for us. We always appreciate you guys. And as always, go follow us on X. You can follow me at and now Rick on X, and you can go follow the Only Football Podcast on X at Only Football KR. Kyle, where can they follow you on X?
You can follow me at Johnny Appleseed. As always, FTBL ONLYPODCAST, Football Only Podcast. Bam, there it is for everyone to see. Please follow me, and I will take you on a journey.
We're going to take you on journeys. No more Thursday night football. No more Monday night football. 1 week left of football left for the regular season and for all 32 teams to play. But that just means that playoff football is on the horizon, everybody, and it's going to be fucking exciting. This is where Kyle and I get fucking heated, and I love it. I love every bit of it, but we can't wait to see you guys during our predictions episode later this week on Thursday, and of course during our live stream on Sunday, where I will absolutely be streaming Bears Packers week 18.
Well, yeah, and shout out to Kobe White for fucking up my parlay. Not one 3-pointer made tonight. Kobe White for the Bulls. Wow. You're a piece of shit. Wow. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, what's up with that? Kobe White. He's a big Bulls guy. This guy's Chicago everything. Bulls.
I am Chicago.
Bulls, Bears,
Blackhawks.
Cubs. If it's Cubs, if it's in Chicago, he's a fan. Pizza, Vince Vaughn, everything.
Yeah, for the most part.
He's a big Vince Vaughn guy. The Breakup takes place in Chicago.
That's a good movie. That's a
great movie.
Damn good movie.
There's a great scene in that movie.
There's a great scene in that movie.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Before we get a little X-rated, we're going to keep it moving. Kyle, as always, it's a good time, brother, and I'll see you next time.
Same here. See ya!